I call bribery, and like any good upstanding citizen in a seat of power, I take it. What if Naruto was from every clan? Or what if Naruto had the Senrigan? Do I really have to choose? Senrigan comes from the Otsutsuki, and they're a clan, right? So technically I could add this to the story and just tell both what-ifs simultaneously. So yes, I do think I will do that. Welcome to the Amagi. Before we begin, only 25% of our viewers are subscribed, so if you're a fan of the video, please like and double check if you are subscribed. And with that out of the way, let's get into the video. He was sleeping, in warm darkness, a dreamless sleep. No images were playing in his head. Why should they? Even if they did, there would not be anything for him to detect. He had no concept of sensory perception, nothing but this nice feeling he felt that was warm and calm, like he was swaddled in love. How long had he been in this semi-lucid state? This point where every so often he heard a muffled voice. He wasn't sure. Slowly, the two lids that covered a pair of crystal blue eyes opened. "Hello, life. It's a pleasure to meet you." Well, that's what Naruto would have said if he had any concept of communication. He was floating in a green liquid. No air entered his lungs, only water poured through the maskless mouth into his chest. All that being said, Naruto was not panicking. He was not drowning, so he was okay. The oxygen and nutrients that had kept him alive for this long were being fed to him through a single tube running down from the top of the tank, a single cord attached to his midsection. Suddenly, his eyes adjusted to the strange lighting and the darkness beyond the tank. He saw small blue squares in the distance, and in what little light came from them, there were two shadows, one taller than the other. The taller one handed off a clipboard to the other as both figures glanced in Naruto's direction. The taller of the two stepped to the tank, his pale face illuminated by the light. He offered a gentle smile. Naruto floated closer to the edge, pressing his hand against the tank, his hand being met with the image of this pale man's hand over it. Naruto's curiosity was stoked as he saw this. He then looked at the man, eye to eye through the glass, and smiled the cutest, most innocent smile. It was enough to cause even Orochimaru to smile back. How wholesome. It was a shame that this one did not truly understand what world he'd just been born into. The child was already in its pre-adolescent stage of life, being the equivalent of a 9-year-old. Of course, he had not been sitting in that tank for 9 years. Heavens forbid. That would have taken way too long. Particular growth hormones and other various chemicals had been fed into the child to cause it to see its body and mind expand. It had been expected that the child's growth would reach this point within 2.5 years before slowing back down to the natural aging cycle, but it had taken a little over 3 years for this child to reach this point. During most of this time, the child was kept sedated and unconscious, so this was truly its first experience with life. And already, Orochimaru felt the child probing his mind for information. Such a ravenous learner. Your need to learn is fitting for the one who gave birth to you. He knew that the child was listening into his mind. The child sat there for a second as his attention turned away from Orochimaru for a second. He suddenly began cycling through various dojutsu. Sharingan, Byakugan, Katsuryugan, and various other dojutsu that Orochimaru had never actually seen before, such as a yellow one that possessed what appeared to be spokes like a wheel in them, as well as one that seemed to be blue with a black moon circling the lens, the sclera having turned a strange color that almost made it resemble a window holding behind it all of space and time. The child was seemingly trying out different combinations, as well as even a ringed dojutsu that Orochimaru assumed was the Rinnegan of old. He smiled. He had done well when he came into contact with someone within another organization. Through favors and shared technology and discoveries, he was able to procure a sample of DNA from something not entirely human, a celestial being. The vial itself said only subject Shibai. That, mixed with some of the DNA of all the other clans accessible to him in Konoha, had been concocted together. Originally, Orochimaru was unable to mix all of this DNA together due to how vastly different they were. All of the traits would not fit into a single genome without horrible repercussions that had seen many a disfigured creature expiring 3 minutes out of the tank. The addition of Otsutsuki DNA, however, had been able to properly store these traits and utilize them without corrupting the entire DNA strand. That being said, the child was further given the genetic base of the strongest shinobi ever, Minato Namikaze. This was visible in the boy's blonde hair. It was as if Orochimaru were looking into the eyes of Jiraiya's pupil once again. Orochimaru picked up the clipboard. Project Deus Ex Machina, the paper said. Honestly, this was the truth. Orochimaru had been attempting to create the most powerful body ever. He was literally attempting to create a god from the machine, and this boy's awakening had proven that he'd succeeded. He sat the clipboard down and turned to Kabuto. "Prepare to drain the tank. I'll fetch a towel." The boy floated there. He came to the tank to curiously watch Kabuto. Kabuto looked up to see the boy smiling brightly at him. Kabuto attempted to ignore him. That was until the boy began pushing his face into the glass and making the most hilarious expressions that even a seasoned shinobi like Kabuto couldn't keep from smiling at. "You certainly are a happy one," he said, not entirely expecting the boy to even understand what he had said. Slowly, the tank began to drain of the fluid. The child, not yet sure how to walk, would just sit there on its knees. Face no longer jovial, having experienced its second limitation beyond the glass: gravity. Turns out it was pretty rough existing under your own weight. Orochimaru returned with the blanket. Kabuto would raise the glass and proceed to cut the boy free from the cord that had kept him alive. "Now it's official. Happy birthday," he said. Orochimaru handed the towel to Kabuto, and he would wrap it up around him. He would attempt to help the boy stand. Orochimaru stepped back to watch, hoping to see how fast Naruto would adapt to the new requirement of proper motor functions. Naruto managed to stand on his feet with Kabuto's help. Kabuto was doing most of the work to keep him standing. Naruto was looking down the whole time, his gaze darting between his own and Kabuto's feet. He watched Kabuto's movements and attempted to emulate them himself. He was learning to walk already. Orochimaru smiled. That adaptive nature surely had been the result of adding in his own genes. Kabuto sat him down in a chair. "Hello," Orochimaru said. "Hello," the boy parroted. Not that Naruto had yet grasped the meaning of the word, he was simply saying it too, unaware that this ironically was the proper response to a greeting. Kabuto seemed uncomfortable, and why shouldn't he be? Naruto was currently probing both Kabuto and Orochimaru's mind for relevant data. Orochimaru opened his mind wide for Naruto, as it seemed Kabuto was closing his off. It's not as if Naruto were going to find anything that Orochimaru needed to hide. Naruto wasn't even properly protecting his mind. Orochimaru was capable of tracing back the boy's mental tether and was able to gaze inside via a mental feedback loop. Naruto was currently focusing on communication data, particularly grammar, structure, and vocabulary. Even if he did see the more secret parts of his mind, he wouldn't understand it. The boy opened his mouth and cooed, as if testing his voice in preparation for his first words. And what were those words? "No. Come on, you can do it," Orochimaru coached him. Naruto smiled. "Noodle." Kabuto sat there. "Noodle?" Naruto looked at Kabuto and nodded. "Noodle. Hungry." Orochimaru laughed. "You heard him, Kabuto. Go make some ramen for him." Kabuto sighed and rolled his eyes. He would leave to go do this. Orochimaru, on the other hand, would continue attempting to communicate with him. "So, everyone needs a name. I don't think subject N4R4T0 will work for much longer. So why not call you Naruto? Naruto." Naruto would smile. "My name." Not too long into this conversation, Kabuto did return with the noodles. He assumed it was too early to try chopsticks, so he brought a fork. Orochimaru, on the other hand, insisted that he use chopsticks instead. He wanted to see if he could adapt to a more complex motor skill. This didn't go anywhere. And by the first 15 minutes of trying, the ramen was starting to grow cold, so Orochimaru surrendered and let Naruto use the fork. Naruto's face twisted when he tasted it. "Cold," he said. "Kabuto, go warm it up," Orochimaru commanded. Kabuto would do as bidden. He would eventually return with the ramen, having warmed it up. Naruto took a bite from it and dropped his fork into the juice as he began to whine. "Forgot to tell you to blow on it," Kabuto said with a sly smile. Orochimaru looked at him from the corner of his eye. Orochimaru nodded to Naruto. "Try again, but this time blow on it." Naruto would do as asked, only for the noodles to go everywhere. "This is pathetic," Kabuto said. Orochimaru shook his head. "No, this is progress. Within a half hour, he's already started walking, talking, and eating solid foods on his own. We'll give him more time to adapt." And so they did. They presented Naruto with something more fitting than a towel to wear and had him walking about on his own. He started slow, but in the span of a few hours, he was already running an obstacle course. "We're going to need a more efficient way to teach these things," Orochimaru said. "We'll brainstorm a curriculum that should at least get those who use it up to speed quicker." Naruto would then be brought to his room where he'd be given a bed, blankets, and various pillows. He would crawl into them like a feral animal, but he seemed to get comfortable and proceeded to sleep. In the weeks to come, he'd begin his studies and training to get his body strong, and Naruto's ability to adapt was working out well for him, helping him to begin to understand jutsu and the like. Once he had the basics down, he really took off in his studies, conglomerating more and more knowledge unto himself. This caused him to venture off many times to explore. As he explored, though, he would reach a certain barred room, a room with a heavy metal door in front of it and a keypad. Naruto was intrigued by this. He wanted to know what was beyond it, but Orochimaru would find him as he was trying to enter. "No, you're not to go in there. Why? Naruto would ask. Orochimaru would kneel down to his level. Because that's where Daddy keeps his most dangerous experiments. Now go on to the training room. I want you to train with Kimimaro for a time. Naruto would run off to the training room where he'd begin training with Kimimaro. Kimimaro was one of Orochimaru's greatest warriors. But as Kimimaro was practicing his moves, he would notice that he'd form a bone in his body and would pull it out of his skin and begin swinging it around as a sword. Naruto watched as he began to wonder how he did it. He would ask Kimimaro flatly. Kimimaro would tell him that it was the same as commanding any bone to do anything, to sense it and will it. Suddenly, Naruto attempted this and would create a bone blade just as Kimimaro had. Kimimaro would almost freak out before remembering what Naruto was. Oh yeah, you're that guy. Your abilities are hardly worth anything. They, like you, are just a copy of something real. I'm not a copy, Naruto would say. Kimimaro would scoff. You don't know anything about yourself, do you? Kimimaro turned around to face Naruto. If you're so special to the master, then you must be strong. If you're strong, then you can beat me. If not though, you will just die, and it will prove to Lord Orochimaru that I am, and always have been, his most promising vessel. Kimimaro would launch toward Naruto. Naruto would raise his bone blade to catch Kimimaro's. Stop! We don't have to kill each other. Father said we should just train. Kimimaro scoffs. He wants you to train because he wants a weapon. He feels that you can and will be stronger than me, which is why he cast me aside. I'm going to show him the error in his calculations. I'm going to destroy you and every single one of your Kekai Genkai with my own singular one. He continued striking at Naruto, and as he did, Naruto's bone blade began to show signs of cracking. Your blade is as weak as you are. It's a false bone. You're a false person. An imitation. Nothing. Cell cultures grown in a lab. He swung his blade again, creating another large crack. Grown in a petri dish. The blade kept falling upon Naruto's. And he thinks you're going to replace me. He swung his bone blade back and then smashed into Naruto's, shattering the blade and sending Naruto flying back. Your father grew you in a vat, and no doubt he has others set to replace you. I guess I'll just have to kill you all. Kimimaro comes running at Naruto, but suddenly he freezes when he sees Naruto look up at him. Naruto is sitting on his knees and only now is making eye contact. His eyes were glowing red. Whether it was the Sharingan or the Ketsuryugan, Kimimaro did not know, but he saw red all the same. Suddenly, Naruto's shadow around him began to move, thickening like a void as tendrils began twirling in all directions. The shadows reached out and gripped Kimimaro, holding him still. From all directions, wood spikes would appear and fire at him. Kimimaro was reduced to a glorified pincushion. He didn't even have time to cry out in pain. Even if he was still alive for a time after this traumatic event, he was unable to speak. He perished there. Naruto would slowly regain control of himself. He saw what he had done and panicked. He rushed over to check on him, but realized that he was dead. He turned around and ran to the door. It was then that Orochimaru stopped him. He looked inside and saw Kimimaro and then looked down at Naruto, who had a look of terror upon his face. I swear I didn't mean to do it. He wanted to kill me. He said I was grown in a petri dish and that I wasn't a real person. He wanted to kill me because he said that you should focus on him. I swear I didn't mean to do it. Orochimaru put his hand on Naruto's shoulder. You should just go to your room for a while. I'm going to have to rethink your training. And so Naruto went to his room. There he crawled under the covers and just sorta hid. He cried a little and did a lot of thinking. He cycled through the stages of grief over and over again before he fell asleep. And as he slept, he remembered waking up in a tank. Naruto didn't remember anything before the tank. Was it possible that he was born in it? No, Orochimaru was his father. That was the truth. But then, who was his mother? Naruto awakened in a cold sweat. The clock said 3 a.m. He crawled out of bed and began making his way to the bathroom to relieve himself before returning. As he walked back to his room, he would pass by the training area where he killed Kimimaro. He looked in and saw only bloodstains from where Kimimaro's body had once been. As he remembered what he'd done, Kimimaro's words echoed out in his head. You're a false person, an imitation, nothing. Cell cultures grown in a lab. Naruto kept walking around the base. The floor was cold, and the only sound to be heard was the mechanical droning of various systems that kept the underground facility warm or cool, depending on the time of year. The sounds of refrigerators and other machines that couldn't be turned off for the night due to their purpose continued to hum. While he didn't often pay these machines much mind, at night their quiet natures seemed like a deafening thunder. These halls had always been freaky to him, long and numerous, yet so few to walk them. A liminal space that subverted expectations for a base designed to have so few people in it at any one time. Naruto would stop, finding him outside of the door that Orochimaru had told him to avoid. He needed to know what was back there. He couldn't explain why, he just felt like he did. Though another piece of him felt as if he had already been there once, but he couldn't remember. He looked at the door and tried to open it, but it was locked. It wouldn't budge without the correct number pattern. As Naruto looked at the control panel, he lamented that he didn't know the code, but he knew who did. Orochimaru. Orochimaru would never tell him the code, but maybe he didn't have to. Naruto would close his eyes and concentrate. Opening his eyes, they would show the pattern of the Senrigan. Naruto began to peer back in time, quickly searching for any point in time where Orochimaru would have keyed in the number. He would find one such occasion, 2684. Naruto repeated the numbers over and over again as he began to type them into the computer. There was a green light and a thud signaling that the door was no longer locked. Naruto would put his hand on the cold handle, and where he had previously had immovable resistance, there was now give. He would twist the handle and open the door. He'd step in. There was nothing but a grate leading the way before him, a dim green light within. At the end of that light, he found a tank, the same thing he recalled being in. Coming to that tank, he looked at it with fear. He found a computer on a table next to it. On there, he found a file, and he opened it up. Subject N4RT0, nicknamed Naruto, has begun showing signs of incredible adaptation. His ability to learn to speak, as well as his ability to grasp simple jutsu, is beyond remarkable. Further tests are required. There seem to be log entries for every day since his awakening, including today. Naruto opened that one up. Subject has displayed aggressive behavior. After being pushed into a corner, the subject lashed out in an aggressive and feral way, resulting in the death of Kimimaro Kaguya. Possible signs of mental instability and possible signs of mental collapse resulting from the creation process. Perhaps version 0.2 will have differing results. Suddenly, as Naruto clicked off the file, the room lit up as if autonomy had been granted to it. Naruto turned around and looked back down the corridor, only to find at least 24 more pods, each one with an identical being to Naruto in different developmental stages. As the lights activated, each of the beings opened their eyes and looked at him. Naruto panicked and let out a scream. It wasn't much longer thereafter that Orochimaru himself appeared. He looked around the room and then to Naruto, who was so startled by this that tears were actually running down his face. "Father, what is this?" Each clone turned to Orochimaru and looked at him. Orochimaru sighed. "Why did you have to disobey me, Naruto? I thought you might be the one." "The one for what?" Naruto asked. "The one that I would become." Orochimaru touched a button on the wall and turned the lights out again and then closed the door behind him. He produced a kunai as he walked closer. "But after this, I don't think I could keep you under control." He began to approach Naruto. Naruto, in a panic, would grip the clone with shadow paralysis jutsu before using ice style to form a spike to throw at Orochimaru. The spike hit Orochimaru, but he would disappear in smoke. Suddenly, a hand wrapped around Naruto's mouth as a sharp pain dug into his side. He stood there, shocked for a moment. He looked back at Orochimaru. Orochimaru's tongue extended out like the snake he was. "You thought I was foolish enough just to approach you after what you did today. I'm not that stupid, but it seems you are." Naruto activates his Ketsuryugan, and immediately Orochimaru lets go of him. Naruto stumbles forward and falls down to the ground as spurts of blood drip down from just below his ribs. In that moment, all Naruto could think of doing was getting out. One of his eyes switched to a Rinnegan as a Yomotsu Hirasaka portal opened right in front of him. He began crawling toward it. Orochimaru drew closer. Naruto would use the Diva Path to push Orochimaru back into the empty tank, causing its contents to spill. Naruto crawled through the portal and landed in a forest. As he used the Ketsuryugan to try and slow the bleeding, he got up and began walking, covering his side with his hands. His white pajama shirt was now crimson in color, the red circle growing at an alarming rate. He stumbled further until he hit his knees. Looking up, he saw a set of gates with the kana for hermitage on the front. He managed to get to his feet. He knew that people lived here, and maybe one of them could save him. During this time of the night, the watch was being kept by many a faithful shinobi of Konoha. They were here to protect the village and guard it overnight. They saw the boy stumbling in. They think that something weird is up, but suddenly he collapses in the middle of the road. The ninja known as Iruka rushes out to check on him first. He lands beside him and sees his side. He looks back and calls up to the others. "Hurry, get a doctor, this boy's bleeding." Iruka began first aid. He takes clean cloth and mashes it into the wound. Naruto cries out and jolts at the sudden pain of a strange cloth being stuffed into the open wound. Iruka would then use his other hand to hold Naruto still. "Hold still, you're gonna be okay." Naruto's vision begins to blur as his lids grow heavier. He sees the shinobi only for a split second before it grows dark. He hears Iruka call out to him. "Whoa, no, don't go to sleep. Keep your eyes open." Despite Naruto's desire to do as he asked, and despite his will to survive, he can't hold it any longer. He passes out. When he next awakens, he does so in a hospital bed. As his eyes open, sun is shining in from the windows. From here, he has a perfect view of the village and the Hokage Rock, which bore 4 faces. Despite having slept for many hours, he didn't feel at all rested. If anything, he feels weaker now than he had before. He looks up up and finds that he's attached to an IV drip, which held a bag full of O-positive blood. He felt at his side where he'd been stabbed and felt bandages. It seemed that they had managed to stop the bleeding and were currently attempting to replace what he had lost. Naruto blinked a few more times to drive the fog away. A guard that he hadn't noticed before that was stationed at the side of the room looked at him and stood up before moving to the door to speak with a nurse. Not long after, a doctor entered the room and walked over to Naruto and began to check him out to make sure he was doing well. Naruto was silent for a moment. The doctor spoke. "Can you tell me what happened?" Naruto opened his mouth to speak, but only a weak whisper came out. "I was stabbed by my father." The doctor stopped for a moment to look into Naruto's eyes. He then continued, "Your father stabbed you. And can you tell me who you are and who your father is?" Naruto nodded. "I'm Naruto, and my father's name is Orochimaru." The doctor stopped again and looked at Naruto's eyes. "Orochimaru?" Naruto nodded. The doctor would then leave the room and the guard would return. Naruto would be left there to rest for another half hour before a new shinobi walked in. This man wore a headband with a leaf pattern emblazoned upon it. The man stood by Naruto's bedside. "Hello, Naruto. My name is Inoichi Yamanaka. I would like to speak to you about what you said earlier, about your father, Orochimaru. How much are you aware of in regards to your father?" Naruto shrugged, just that he likes to experiment and do sciencey stuff. Inoichi nodded. "Well, your father, Orochimaru, has been a wanted criminal for quite a few years now. He's been accused of human experimentation." Naruto's face grew more dire. "If you know where he is, it would greatly help us to bring him to justice." Naruto shook his head. "I don't remember." Inoichi sat there for a moment. "You don't remember or you don't want to remember?" Naruto sat there for a moment. Inoichi was silent as well. "I think the only option left here is for me to dive into your mind. Then maybe I can help you remember." Inoichi put his hand on Naruto's head, but instead of Naruto passing out, he remained conscious. In fact, he began probing around inside of Inoichi's head, which caused him to recoil with the hiss. The other shinobi that had been guarding Naruto the whole time sat forward, ready to do anything if Inoichi had been attacked. But Inoichi didn't call for him. He instead simply gazed into Naruto's eyes with curiosity. That was telepathy. But more than that, you not only resisted my techniques, but you dove into my mind. Inoichi Yamanaka, 35 years old, owner of a flower shop, husband to a woman, father to a daughter. The daughter's named Ino, after you. That's sweet." Inoichi seemed like he might lose his cool, but he calmed himself down. "Very impressive. Where did you learn such a technique?" Naruto shrugged. "I've always been able to do it, I think." Inoichi shook his head. "If you don't tell us where Orochimaru is, we'll have to use advanced interrogation techniques, and I really don't want to use those, especially on a child no older than my own daughter." Naruto cocked his head. "I don't know where he is. This is the first time I've been out this far." "Then how did you get here?" Inoichi asked. Naruto shrugged. "Through a portal, I guess." "A portal?" Naruto activated his Rinnegan. "Yeah, a portal, like this." He would suddenly open a portal. Inoichi was shocked. He wasn't super well versed in ancient legend, but from his experience, he was pretty sure that this was the mythical Rinnegan. According to Jiraiya, this is exactly what it looked like. So how did this kid come into having these? Was it possible that this kid's eyes once belonged to Nagato and they were pilfered by Orochimaru? Inoichi wasn't so sure about this, so he decided to let it rest for a moment and go to inform the Hokage. He stood up from his seat. "Well, that was informative. I think I'll be off now. I need to talk to a friend. Is it okay if I bring the friend here to meet you later?" Naruto nodded. "Sure." Inoichi smiled. "If you're good, I'll bring you a sucker or something." "What's a sucker?" Inoichi was surprised. "It's candy. Have you never had one?" Naruto shook his head. "What's candy?" Inoichi seemed surprised by this, but he quickly gained his composure. "It's something you're going to love. Trust me. I'll see you soon, okay?" Inoichi would then proceed to leave. He would head to the Hokage's office where he would find Hiruzen. Hiruzen was busy as always, putting away some paperwork. To Hiruzen, any business that Inoichi could bring would be a relief. He looked up from his desk. "What can I do for you, Inoichi?" Inoichi then spoke. "Late last night, a wounded boy stumbled into Konoha." Hiruzen nodded. "I actually just read over your report. I certainly hope he's okay." Inoichi offered a slight smile. "You'll be relieved to hear that he's on the mend and has planned to make a full recovery." Hiruzen clapped once with a smile as he leaned back into his chair. "Wonderful." He turned to look at the intel agent again. "But why are you bringing him up then?" Inoichi then began his report. "When he awakened, he began to say some strange things, so I was called in to investigate, and my findings were, well, strange." "How so?" Hiruzen asked. "Well, first of all, he claimed to be the son of Orochimaru, and when I asked where Orochimaru was, he said he didn't know. I attempted to dive into his mind, but he possesses the innate ability to resist and even turn this ability back on the caster. When pressed about how he got to the village, he said it was through a portal, and then he activated the Rinnegan and opened a portal right there in front of me." Hiruzen was almost out of his chair. "Did you say a Rinnegan?" Inoichi nodded. Hiruzen stood and began to make his way out the door. Together, Hiruzen and Inoichi made their way to the hospital where Naruto was. As soon as the door opened, Hiruzen stepped in and walked to the bed. He saw Naruto, who would then turn to face him. As soon as he did, Hiruzen's heart nearly stopped. Minato? No, I'm Naruto, the boy said. Inoichi stopped for a moment. He hadn't realized how much this boy favored Minato. Hiruzen walked over and sat down, his mind afire with all the possibilities. Was it possible that this kid was related to Minato? Naruto would sit there silently, watching Hiruzen. Hiruzen shook his head to break himself out of it. Hello, Naruto. It's a pleasure to meet you. My name is Hiruzen. I just wanted to ask you some questions. Is that okay? Naruto looked to Hiruzen, then to Inoichi, then to the guard who couldn't stop watching him like a hawk, before finally returning his gaze to Hiruzen. A lot of people have been asking me a lot of questions today. Hiruzen let off a grandfatherly smile. I'm sure they have. It's probably seeming pretty hectic for you right now, huh? Naruto nodded his head slowly. Hiruzen then spoke. Well, I would like to ask a few questions of my own. Then we won't ask you any more questions for the day. How does that sound? Naruto smiled. Okay. Hiruzen then started. I know you said you don't know how you got here from there, but it would be appreciated if you could tell me a few details about the place. Naruto thought about it. Well, it had lots of hallways that were mostly empty. There were rooms for eating, sleeping, and other stuff. Then there was your sciencey rooms. I was born in one of those. Then I found a locked door and I went in and I found more pods like the one I'd been floating in, and each one had another version of me inside of it. Hiruzen and Inoichi looked at each other with surprise. Cloning? Hiruzen asked. Inoichi agreed with this. Probably so, sir. Hiruzen then returned to face Naruto. Mr. Yamanaka here has told me that you've been able to utilize the Rinnegan. Is that true? Naruto activated them. How did you get these? Hiruzen asked. Naruto shrugged. I was born with these, too. Naruto began to cycle through all the dojutsu he had access to. He then cycled back to Rinnegan. Inoichi and Hiruzen were floored. There was no telling how many Kekai Genkai this boy had. And you can't get back to where Orochimaru lives. Naruto objected. Actually, I can. All I would need to do is teleport back. Hiruzen was shocked. If we asked you to, would you be able to open a portal straight to Orochimaru's lair? Naruto nodded. Hiruzen would then smile. This boy is going to be very helpful to us. Naruto was getting a once-over by a nurse to make sure that his wound was healing. Just be sure to keep the wound clean. Change the bandages twice a day. Once after you wake up and once before you go to bed. Feel free to add a third change in there if it becomes wet or dirty. Number one thing to remember is just to keep the wound and the bandages protecting it clean. You don't want any heavy scarring or infections, okay? Okay. Frankly, Naruto getting out of the hospital was not the hospital's idea. Hiruzen felt a little bad about pushing Naruto to do this. He wasn't even really supposed to be up and moving right now, let alone leading them into Orochimaru's lair, but time was a pressing issue, and so he had Naruto released early. The risk of his wounds causing him an issue were minimal, the doctors had said, but this was an important move to make. They needed to ensure that they captured Orochimaru before too much time passed. Naruto was a risk to him, and now that he was free, Orochimaru knew it would only be a matter of time before Konoha came knocking. So they moved the timetable up as far as they could to get their crack at it. Hiruzen was wearing his armor, and he had Enma standing beside him. A large squad of Anbu Black Ops agents were by the Hokage's side. Enma looked to Hiruzen. Are you sure you can do this? Hiruzen nodded. It's clear to me that Orochimaru is not planning to change his ways. I will do what I have to. Enma took a deep breath. You said that once before. Hiruzen couldn't deny it. He had stood here once before already, and at that time he had refused to kill Orochimaru, against both his own and everyone else's better judgment. But not today. Today was not the day to be giving in to his own self-interests. He did indeed love Orochimaru like a son, but the village came first. And so long as Orochimaru was a threat to the village, Hiruzen would be willing to make any sacrifice just to see this done. He looked to Naruto, who was riding on one of the Anbu members' shoulders. He was sort of slumping, his chin sitting on the head of the agent, his face displaying a melancholic expression. Is he alright? Hiruzen asked. The agent carefully lifted Naruto from his shoulders and brought the boy down to Hiruzen's level. Are you okay, Naruto? You look a little sick. Is it your wound? Naruto shook his head. Well, what is it? Naruto sat there for a moment before looking around. All these people have weapons. Are you going to kill father? Hiruzen stopped when he heard the word father. All the same, he had a hard time answering the question. We're going to stop him. I don't want to kill him, and if we can take him without hurting him, I'll be glad to do so. That's your job. If you can, we need you to ask your father to please surrender without a fight, so we don't have to do anything harsh. Naruto nodded solemnly. Can you do it? Hiruzen asked. Naruto nodded. More recently than it would have seemed, Naruto had come to understand what Orochimaru was doing, and what he had done. His preconceptions about him were all but shattered. Despite that, Naruto couldn't help but feel like he was leading the charge toward patricide, and his conscience was heavy with the idea of killing the one that had given him life, almost to the point of tears. Orochimaru had tried to kill him, but all the same, Naruto loved Orochimaru. Maybe it was desperation. It was a desire to feel loved. But all the same, with this betrayal, Naruto was feeling very alone, and it made him wish he had never been born. If he hadn't, he wouldn't have had to be alive to feel this. Slowly, a hand touched against his face. His eyes looked to the hand, old and wrinkled, covered in liver spots. Never had a hand touched him so gently and kindly before. All of the deepest emotions Naruto had been suppressing began to bubble up to the surface. Tears began to form in his eyes and roll down his cheeks. "I don't want my papa to die," he said. Hiruzen went to speak when Enma put his hand on his shoulder. "Pack away your emotions, Hiruzen. Remember what's at stake. Don't make the same mistake you made last time." Hiruzen thought about this. His thumb drew a straight line across the boy's cheek to wipe away his tears. All he could do was this. There were no promises he could make, but this one was special. No matter what, he would ensure that the boy would be cared for and loved in the way he deserved, the way Orochimaru was incapable of doing. "All you have to do is open the gate, Naruto. We'll do the rest, and we will try to take Orochimaru alive, just for you." Naruto managed to smile. He closed his eyes for a moment, allowing his Rinnegan to awaken once more. As his ringed eyes opened, he would open a portal for them. The Anbu agents ran through, as did Hiruzen. The agent carrying Naruto would slowly follow them in, being the last to enter the portal and subsequently the last to exit as well. Once through, they found themselves in the middle of a large secret laboratory, the same laboratory where Naruto last was. The way in and out was guarded by a key code. He recited the number to them using his Senrigan. The agents would tap the keys on the pad and open the door. They'd proceed to fan out, searching for Orochimaru. The lights in the laboratory would turn on, showing various tanks, each empty, though strange liquid appeared below them, sitting just above a drainage gate. Hiruzen looked around. What is this place? Naruto seemed to grow a bit uncomfortable, hiding his eyes in the shoulder of his companion. "This is where I was born." Hiruzen looked around. "Where you were." Had Orochimaru really done it? Had he truly gone that far? Human experimentation was one thing, but had he been creating life through these experimentations? Not long after, the chief captain of the Anbu returned and spoke with Hiruzen. "The entire base has been deserted, sir. There's no sign of Orochimaru. It seems he might have been gone for quite some time." Hiruzen scoffed. "We were too late." "Maybe not," Naruto said. "I can use my Senrigan to see where he is right now." Hiruzen looked up in shock. "You can? That's wonderful. Please, try." Naruto would awaken his Senrigan and begin to utilize it. As he did, however, he suddenly gripped his head and let out a cry. His body contorted in pain to the point that the shinobi carrying him could barely hold him anymore. Naruto almost fell to the ground as he then fell unconscious. "What happened to him?" Hiruzen demanded. The agent wasn't sure. "Get him back to the hospital, pronto." Naruto would once more awaken to the hospital's ceiling. It seemed that he had once more had a once-over while he was under. His bandages had been changed, and he was currently laying on his side under the sheets. As his tired eyes refocused, he saw Hiruzen standing there. "Mr. Hokage?" Hiruzen sat forward. "Naruto, are you okay?" Naruto sat up and rubbed his eyes. "What happened?" Hiruzen asked. "I tried using my Senrigan, and I saw everything, all at once." Hiruzen was confused. "Huh?" Naruto explained. "My Senrigan allows me to see everything going on in the world at any time, up to the point of my birth. I wanted to know where Orochimaru was in the world at this current time, but when I tried to look, instead of showing me what I wanted to know, it showed me every event to transpire in this world in the last 3 years, all at the same time. I felt like my brain was going to explode." Hiruzen sat back in his chair. "Sounds like they were trying to overload you with information. They know you can see them, so they tried to use something to conceal themselves, like hiding a needle in a haystack." "I don't know how they're doing it," Naruto said. "It's never happened to me before, but..." He almost passed out again, but he caught himself. Hiruzen would stand and help him lay back down. "It's okay, Naruto. Just rest. Forget about trying to come up with an answer. I've been asking too much of you. Don't push yourself past your limits. Leave this up to me for now." Naruto lay there in the hospital bed. "Please, don't leave me." Hiruzen was shocked. Naruto latched onto Hiruzen's finger tightly. "I don't want to be alone again." Hiruzen would pull the chair forward and would sit down. "Don't worry. I'm not going anywhere." Naruto then lost consciousness again. During his time asleep, Hiruzen asked for a thorough blood test that would begin sequence matching his DNA. He wanted to know where this boy could be sent. Hiruzen knew that Naruto needed a family, so he would discover what clan he belonged to and send him there. But as he was presented with the file, Hiruzen was shocked. H? DNA? Hiruzen asked. The doctor nodded. He has a triple helix structure in a form not seen naturally in our world. Hiruzen thought about that. He has a triple helix structure, but what does that mean? He's extraterrestrial? The doctor gave Hiruzen a look of skepticism. It doesn't mean that exactly. It simply means that whatever Orochimaru has done, he's managed to fit more genes into his genome than naturally possible. Most humans possess roughly 20,000 genes. Each of these dictate characteristics about ourselves, from what we look like physically to the way our minds process information. It's why a son or daughter may look like their father or mother, talk like them, think like them, and even inherit similar verbal tics. Naruto's DNA, however, accommodates up to 30,000 genes, roughly. But the issue is in knowing if his body is actually capable of handling this. Hiruzen sat forward. What do you mean? The doctor sat there for a moment and thought about what he was going to say next. DNA is the basis of our biology. It's why cells split. It's all about reproduction. DNA is the core of our biological life. The body is designed with all sorts of fail-safes. It tends to try and repair damaged DNA on its own. And if the body doesn't recognize Naruto's DNA as, well, Naruto's DNA, it might attempt to repair the DNA if it can. And if it can't, it might decide to stop allowing the DNA to replicate. In many cases, DNA damage is the cause of cancer. If damaged DNA is allowed to replicate, it could destroy the body, which is why the body has a failsafe to target and isolate DNA that could be mutated or potentially harmful. If this happens, the cells that carry this DNA will slowly begin to die off without replicating. This can cause a lot of issues in the human body. From what we can tell, however, his body hasn't started rejecting his DNA yet, so he might be in the clear. But we still need to run tests to ensure that the carrier proteins are able to do their job properly. Our own body's carrier proteins are only capable of handling a double helix structure. Adding a third strand to the helix could be dire if the body can't accommodate. How long will it take to discover if his carrier proteins are capable of this? Hiruzen asked. Not long. Hiruzen looked to Naruto. And what if his carrier proteins can't accommodate? The doctor thought about it. It's unsure exactly what could happen, but we could see the creation of certain cancers. And if not that, we'll see important cells start to die, which may make it near impossible for him to eat. We could also see a complete and utter shutdown of the immune system. Whatever it is, it would be bad, and it would likely be terminal. Hiruzen was shocked by this. He looked over at Naruto, who was still resting. Is there anything you can do to help him? Some way to stop this? The doctor once more scratched his head. Our expertise in the field of genetic manipulation is lacking. We would require further study of the relationship between the human body and its genes, as well as ways we can alter these genetics without causing a complete collapse of the genome. Hiruzen started to feel anxious. Do not share this information with Naruto. Are you sure it'll matter? The doctor asked. With his Senrigan, he can just look back to this moment and see for himself. Hiruzen thought about it. It's possible, but it's likely he won't try. His Senrigan just backfired on him, so I don't think he'll be attempting it anytime soon. When can he be released? We'll release him as soon as he's feeling capable of leaving. No true physical damage was done to him, and brain scans indicate no damage to the cerebrum. His mind is likely just tired from trying to decode such a massive amount of information at once. So long as he gives his Senrigan a rest, I think it'll be okay for him to leave. Hiruzen nodded. He stood and walked over to Naruto. The boy was sleeping peacefully. He's going to be okay. I just know it. As soon as Naruto awakened, Hiruzen offered to take him home. Naruto and Hiruzen would return to the Hokage's residence. There, Hiruzen would offer Naruto a meal and would proceed to look over the file of everything they had found in Orochimaru's laboratory, which wasn't much. So, how old are you, Naruto? Naruto would begin thinking back. About 3 years old? Hiruzen was shocked. 3 years old? Naruto nodded. Yeah, Orochimaru gave me growth hormones, Hiruzen continued for him. Naruto once again nodded. He said that he wanted me to grow up to be big and strong sooner, so he added that in. He said that I should have slowed down by now though, so I might age like a normal 9-year-old. Hiruzen put the file away and continued to eat his own meal. How much of that time do you remember? Hiruzen asked. Naruto thought back. Nothing. I don't remember anything. I only woke up a few weeks ago. Hiruzen was a little confused by that. Then how did you learn all this stuff? He shrugged. As soon as I came out of the tank, I started reading Papa's mind. You read Orochimaru's mind. Is there anything that you can remember? Naruto shook his head. No, I was only looking at ways to talk. I wanted to speak Papa's words so Papa could understand me. After I could understand his language, he stopped me from being able to go into his mind. Hiruzen thought about it. So I guess there's nothing that you can think of that would help us find him now. Naruto looked down with shame. No, I can't think of anything. I'm very sorry, Mr. Hiruzen. Hiruzen smiled. Don't be. You're trying. That's all we can ask for. But enough about this. We should help you understand the world where you live. Did you know that you possess DNA from all of Konoha's greatest clans? You are family with every clan in Konoha. I was thinking you could meet them. Would you enjoy that? Naruto sat there for a second. Are these clans my family? Hiruzen smiled at him. Yes, in a biological sense, you're cousins with all of these people. It was their DNA that helped produce you. Naruto seemed to grow excited. I want to meet them, please. Hiruzen let out a little laugh. Of course. Well, let's see. You already met with Inoichi Yamanaka. He has a little girl. He loves her very much. He didn't like me telling him that though. Hiruzen stopped him for a moment. Because you read it from his mind. We're going to have to teach you about personal boundaries, Naruto. Maybe we can visit the Yamanaka flower shop. Then there's the Akamichi, Aburame, and Nara clans, the Inazuka clan, and let's not forget about the Hyuga. Hiruzen was thinking about whether or not he should introduce him to Sasuke. After all, Sasuke was the last Uchiha and was pretty torn up about that. Either that would make Naruto and Sasuke both happy, or it would make them both upset. It could go either way, so Hiruzen thought it best not to introduce, I want to meet him. Huh? Hiruzen was confused, but then he realized. Damn it, Naruto, I literally just told you about boundaries. Naruto giggled. Hiruzen stood. Well, if you're done eating, go wash up your hands, and we'll go to Yamanaka Flowers. The two of them strode through the village together. Most people acted as if they weren't there out of respect. While it was important for the Hokage to feel respected, the people also knew that the Hokage oftentimes wanted to feel like a normal person when away from work, so they would usually disregard his presence. Others, however, would smile, bow, and get out of the way. The ways that people displayed their respect and affection for their leader were as numerous as the stars in the sky. But one thing never changed. They all respected him. That was something that Naruto was coming to understand as he walked by the elderly man's side. As they walked, they came to a small flower shop, and as they entered, they witnessed 3 people tending it. Inoichi, his wife, and their daughter, Ino. The daughter looked to be about the same age as Naruto himself. Of course, the clan was a fair bit bigger than this, and were one of the more important members of the village, particularly to the Sarutobi clan, which oftentimes had about as much of a connection to them as the Nara and Akamichi clan did. In fact, it was often seen that the clan heirs would form a team together that would be known as the Ino Shikacho Trio, and upon becoming Chunin, each member would obtain an earring from a Sarutobi clan member to mark their connection as well as their adulthood. Hiruzen had been the one to give the ring to Inoichi, and he was happy to see that he was still wearing it to this day. Hello, Lord Third, Inoichi said with a smile. What can we do for you? Hiruzen looked back. A DNA test dictated that Naruto has genetic ties to the Yamanaka clan, among others. So I decided to show him your shop and let him get to know you better. Naruto seemed oblivious to the situation as he was too focused on the flowers to pay any attention to what was happening. Inoichi would come around the side and kneel down in front of Naruto. It's a pleasure to officially meet you, Naruto. I know we met in the hospital, but that was under different circumstances. I hope we can be friends. Naruto looked to Inoichi and smiled brightly. I want to be friends. Inoichi ruffled Naruto's hair. Sweet kid. Naruto looked up at Hiruzen. Can I go look around? Hiruzen nodded. Yes, but remember not to touch anything without Mr. Yamanaka's permission. We wouldn't wish to break anything or impose upon their work. Understand? I understand, Mr. Hiruzen. Naruto ran off to look at the other flowers. Inoichi stood up. You said among others. That means he has ties to other clans? Hiruzen nodded his head. Which clans? Hiruzen looked to Naruto and watched him play around. All of them. Inoichi was shocked. Lord Third, what exactly is this boy? Hiruzen looked back at Inoichi. He's something Orochimaru made. How? We're not sure. Why? I can only guess to create the perfect vessel for himself. The doctors are still analyzing his DNA to see what all is in there, but whatever they find, Orochimaru's studies are very advanced, even compared to our own medical system. Inoichi looked to Naruto. If he possesses every clan's Kekkei Genkai, you can expect this to become a scandal. Not every clan is going to enjoy having an unregulated user running around with their abilities. They'll have to deal with it. This boy can't be made to suffer just for existing. Inoichi looked down and then back up at Hiruzen, hoping that Hiruzen would grasp the gravity of this situation. Lord Third, this boy could rip all of Konohagakure apart. Hiruzen looked at Inoichi. I understand your concern, but the truth of the matter is, if Konoha is going to fall apart just because a single boy is alive, then were we ever going to stand? Inoichi shook his head. You're not understanding the gravity here. This isn't just about a little boy's life. This is about the sacred duties of a clan and the secret jutsu that makes us who we are. This boy is a threat to all of that, and it'll inevitably make him a target. Everyone will want him. He's a repository, a library for all that makes Konoha what it is. Everyone outside of Konoha will want his power, and everyone inside of Konoha will want him dead. This is about more than one life, and with all due respect, you need to open your eyes and see that, Lord Third. He moved back behind the counter. That boy is a threat to our way of life, and will become a threat to the legacy and usefulness of every clan in the village. If you thought the Uchiha clan uprising was bad, just wait until Konoha rips itself apart just to kill him. So be sure that you know what you're getting yourself into. Hiruzen was stunned by this. Would the clans of Konoha really do this just because of Naruto? He looked back at the boy. Was Naruto truly a threat to all of Konoha just by existing? Naruto walked around the shop until he found Ino. Hello, he said in greeting. The girl turned around and saw him. Hi. Naruto walked to her. What are you doing? I'm trimming some of these flowers to be used in a bouquet. We're just about to hit our anniversary season, where most anniversaries fall. So I'm making these for bouquets because I assume a lot of people will want some. Naruto attempted to pick up one of the flowers. No, wait! Naruto recoiled with a silent gasp. He looked down at his finger, which was starting to bleed. Tears started to form in his eyes, though he remained quiet. Ino walked over to look at it. It's not bad, it just drew a little blood. She walked over and got a bandage from the first aid kit. Trust me, this happens a lot. Eventually your fingers grow tougher, so it's harder to cut, and even if it does get cut, you tend not to feel it. She put a bandage on. Why did it cut me? Naruto asked. Ino picked up the flower. This flower's a rose. It's like my clan. It's very, very beautiful, but it has thorns on it to keep people from messing with it. She showed him. In most cases, I tend to cut the thorns off just for this reason, but I hadn't gotten around to it yet. I know it hurts, but it'll be okay. Naruto looked at the bandage on his finger. Thank you, he said, stumbling over his words. Ino smiled as brightly as the sun. No problem. You know what? Let me do something for you. She went and began getting some of the overstocked flowers and folding them in certain ways, bending them around each other. By the time she was done, she had made a daisy chain. She put it around Naruto's head like a crown. Naruto looked at it, a smile starting to return to his face. She smiled as he was happy. Hi, I'm Naruto, he said. Hello, Naruto. I'm Ino. Though I suppose you already knew that. My father said you're good at reading minds. You're just like us. I'm a part of your clan, I think. Mr. Hiruzen said so. Ino was shocked. Oh, really? Well, that's amazing. I'm glad for that. What all do you know about my clan? She asked. Naruto shrugged. I don't really know anything. Ino decided to take it upon herself to tell him. She stepped back up on the stool and bid Naruto to do the same. She offered him scissors and told him to do just as she did. She began trimming flowers, and Naruto followed. Ino began to speak. The Yamanaka clan is very old. It's existed for generations. It's been around for longer than even this village has. We're a proud and noble clan who are very close with the Nara, Akamichi, and Sarutobi clans. Mr. Hiruzen is a member of the Sarutobi clan, so my father's good friends with him. We're a group of sensory-type ninja. We're good at sensing things. We can tell people's intentions just by looking at them and feeling their chakra. We can feel all sorts of emotions, and we can also read minds. Because of this, we're generally a part of the intel unit. With our specific abilities, we can send and intercept transmissions, encrypt messages, and even siphon information straight from a target's brain. I can do that, Naruto said. Ino laughed. Yeah, you can read minds, but that just scratches the surface of what the Yamanaka clan can do. We can even control minds or switch bodies temporarily with our techniques. No way, you can really do that? Ino nodded. Can you show me? Naruto asked. Well, I don't think I can do it right now. That wouldn't be a good idea, but maybe some other time? Naruto sighed in disappointment. All right, some other time. Ino pat his back. It's not like we're going anywhere. You'll have plenty of time to spend learning more about us. Naruto heard his name being called by Hiruzen. Looks like I gotta go now. He prepared to take off the crown when Ino stopped him. Keep it. It's a gift for you. Are you sure it'll be okay? Naruto asked. Ino nodded. Yeah, it'll be fine. Something to remember me by until we meet again. She waved at Naruto as he left. She looked to her father and saw that he wasn't too happy at the moment. He walked off into the back room. Ino knew better than to put her nose into her father's private business, so she continued doing just as she had been commanded, and kept cutting flowers. As Naruto and Hiruzen left the flower shop, Naruto could sense that something was the matter, so he attempted to read his mind. He got shut out though. Hiruzen looked down at Naruto. How many times am I going to have to tell you to stop trying to look into people's minds? Naruto recoiled a little at the raised tone. Hiruzen immediately pulled back and took a breath. I'm sorry, Naruto. I didn't mean to snap at you. I'm just a little upset is all. Why? Naruto asked. Hiruzen shook his head. There are some things in the world that you're not meant to know, Naruto. Some people keep secrets, and some people keep them for a reason. I can't tell you mine because it's not meant for you. I would very much appreciate if you didn't try to figure it out. Naruto looked down at his feet as he walked. Okay. Sorry. Hiruzen thought about it. The sun was getting a little low, but it was still light out. How about we just go to the playground? I bet you'd like to play around, just so long as you're careful with your wound on your back. Swing set and seesaw only, alright? Naruto smiled again. Okay. Hiruzen took Naruto to the park. He found a nice bench to sit down on and let Naruto do whatever he wanted. It was then that they both noticed Sasuke there on the swing, all alone. Hiruzen looked to Naruto. That's Sasuke. He's the one I mentioned earlier. He's a little prickly and he's very sad. Maybe you can try and help him. Naruto watched Sasuke and then looked back at Hiruzen. I want to try. Hiruzen then told him to run along, which he did. Naruto raced to the swing and sat down in the other seat. Sasuke attempted not to pay attention to him, though it was obvious that he was indeed doing so. Naruto began swinging back and forth. He slowed down a bit. Hi. I'm Naruto, he said. Sasuke ignored him. You know, generally when someone introduces themselves, you're supposed to introduce yourself back. What's your name? The black-haired boy just looked at him for a second. What's it matter to you? 'Cause we're family. Sasuke was shocked for a second. Then his face turned skeptical. What? Naruto looked at him. See Mr. Hiruzen over there? He told me that your name is Sasuke Uchiha and that you come from the clan with the red eye thing, the Sharingan. Naruto nodded. I come from that clan too. Kinda. Sasuke wasn't buying it. What do you mean, kinda? Naruto thought about it. 'Cause I have DNA from every clan, I guess. But even still, I have genes from your clan, so that makes us cousins. See? Naruto activated his Sharingan. I was born with these. Can I see yours? Sasuke was weirded out. He got up and began running away. Wait, Naruto called out. His face slowly turned to one of disappointment. He obviously was not having the best day, having gotten out of the hospital from trying to help get his own father killed to having Mr. Hiruzen snap at him, and now he had Sasuke running away from him too. Hiruzen came up and sat on the swing next to him. Why did he run away? I thought he'd be happy to have family now. Hiruzen smiled at him. Oh, I'm sure he will be. He just needs time to adjust. He lost his family, and it was his own family that did it. He's scared, but give him time to warm up. I'm sure he'll love you. And with that, they made it back home. There, they rested for the night. The day after, they'd be called back to the doctor's office to speak with the head physician. Remember, Naruto, try not to interrupt the adults unless it's super important. Remember all of your questions, and I'll try to answer them at the end. The two would head in. They would take a seat. The chief doctor would then begin to speak. Do you remember yesterday when I said that Naruto's DNA was strange and that it was a triple helix? Hiruzen nodded. The doctor continued. Well, we continued running tests on the blood, and we found that not only is his DNA unusual, but his carrier proteins are unlike anything we've ever seen. His body is fundamentally different from ours. It's happily running off that strange DNA that would never work in us. Everything is meshed perfectly. So, does that mean he's going to be okay? The doctor nodded. He's 100% healthy according to his own body's standards. But what astounds me is this. He began to display an image of his DNA sequencing and various other tests. These proteins are perfectly capable of handling this. It's almost natural. I've never seen anything on Earth this advanced. There's only two options here, and both of them have incredible implications. Number one, Orochimaru is advanced so far beyond our own understanding of medical science that he can now freely manipulate and alter the genome without any repercussions whatsoever. Or number two, Hiruzen finished the sentence. He's gotten a hold of something extraterrestrial. The doctor stood there silently for a moment before nodding. It's the only explanation I can come up with. If he didn't make this himself, then he had to get it from somewhere. And I can promise you, I have never seen DNA sequencing quite like this. Regardless of how Naruto came to be, either from extraterrestrial origins or from the complete overhaul of the genetic code, either way, we need Orochimaru back, as well as his papers and samples. We need to know how he did this, because this could end up being the next stage of medicine. We're talking discovery of ways to edit out all conditions for disease. No more cancer, no more immunity disorders. This could even extend the human lifespan out further than it already is. Hiruzen looked to Naruto, and within his own mind, he could not help but marvel at how a single boy could be so important to the village. One side saw him as a threat to be destroyed, and another side saw him as hope for a better future. What he did know for certain was that he needed to find Orochimaru, and he needed to do so fast. This was their chance to crack the human genome and bring even their own bodies under total domination. Hiruzen and Naruto were walking down the road. Hiruzen's meeting with Shibi Aburame and Sume Inuzuka garnered the same reaction as Inoichi's. That wasn't to say either of them had any intention of revolt. After all, the techniques of these clans weren't kept in the blood, but in the secret ways of life that one couldn't be born knowing. Naruto may have had the potential to do these same things, but that didn't mean that their technique was in danger. Despite this, their DNA was pilfered, and if used correctly, could basically outdate the clans as time moved along. And if genetic manipulation had become possible due to Naruto, that would see the power clans had over the village diminish to the point that Konoha's entire way of life could be threatened. That would centralize power under Konoha's Hokage only, which would give far too much power to the head of the village and could threaten an authoritarian regime that could not be overthrown should the need arise. That was a valid concern, and Hiruzen sympathized. After all, he shared the belief that the leader of any village or nation should not be afforded more power than necessary, as that would result in the collapse of morality and could lead to the people suffering. But of all the clans he was most nervous about confronting about this, it was the Hyuga. The Hyuga's technique was practically the only one considered a Kekkai Genkai. They were jealous over their Byakugan, and Naruto had already displayed it and even unknown evolved forms of it, such as the one he called the Tensaigan and Jogan. Of all people, they would want him dead, but he felt that if he confronted them early enough, he might be able to subvert their possible actions. That was why he was still visiting these clans with Naruto. He wanted to try and convince them to see reason. They were currently on their way to see the other clans and talk with them. Right now, Hiruzen was meeting with the heads of the Akamichi clan and the Nara clan. He felt it would save time to just have the both of them meet in some place close by, so he invited them to a little tea place in the restaurant district of Konoha. There, Choza and Shikaku would meet with him, having brought their own children to play with Naruto on Hiruzen's request. As he would sit down, he'd let Naruto run free with Choji and Shikamaru. "So I assume you've heard about Naruto," he said to them. "Inoichi told us," Choza said, "though I can assure you that he and we have done our best to hide the information from the other clans," Shikaku said. "We can understand that this is a very sensitive subject that must be handled with care," Shikaku continued. Giving off a slight sigh of relief, Hiruzen smiled. "Thank you for your discretion." Shikaku then sat forward. "Lord Fourth, with all due respect, you should know that this is the most dangerous position you could be in politically right now. This boy does present himself as a threat to Konoha." Hiruzen's smile fled as he began to explain. "Shikaku, Choza, I understand your worries, but I assure you that nothing harmful will come from this. The boy could, in fact, serve as a means with which to take medical science to the next step. The end of genetic illnesses, inherited or born from the environment. It could see the human lifespan increased. I can only see good coming from this." Shikaku sighed. "Lord Fourth, can I speak freely, even if what I say may be a bit bold?" Hiruzen nodded. "Of course, Shikaku, say your piece." Shikaku was silent for a moment, trying to ensure that he had properly prepared what he wanted to say before saying it. "Lord Fourth, I know that many good things can come from studying Naruto, but you know that many bad things can come from it as well. I know you plan for him to be used for the health of mankind, but this opens a Pandora's box that severely damages individuality. Say that we do manage to learn how he was created and properly integrate it into our lives. Not only will we find ways to cure various illnesses, but we'll also open the door for other forms of gene editing for the purposes of gaining more power. When everyone is special, nobody is. And though you say that it won't be used that way, you cannot dictate what your successor will do, or who could use it for their own benefit. I truly fear that this will lead to the loss of trust within the various clans of Konoha." "But you know I wouldn't let those things occur," Hiruzen said. "Here comes the bold part I was warning you about," Shikaku said. "I've always seen you like a father, so it pains me to say these things, but we don't believe you. You would allow these things to happen. You've always been one to give in to the requests of others, and you hardly have control over anything. In this day and age, you live as a figurehead, something to unify the people, but you hardly do anything personally to ensure our safety. Case in point, the Uchiha clan." Hiruzen knew where this was going. He looked away in shame. This did affect Shikaku, but not enough to stop him from continuing. "The Uchiha clan situation was handled terribly. What happened was a scam, and we all know it. Itachi never had it in him to do what he did. There was a revolt, and he was sent in to kill them. There's no need to confirm this or a point in denying it. We know it's the truth. They were gonna revolt, and suddenly they all disappear overnight at the hands of one person? First off, it doesn't make sense how a single shinobi could eradicate the entire clan, and it seems all too convenient that they would do so when the word of coup was circulating." Shikaku sat back in his chair. "It's not like we don't understand. To protect Konoha, they needed to have their ideas of a coup put down. But these actions led to the deaths of not only all treasonous shinobi, but also those who had nothing to do with it. Vendors who never awakened their Sharingan, some of them being my friends. It led to the deaths of women and children. Babies slaughtered in the crib. This wasn't a surgical strike. It was genocide. And that's why only Sasuke remains alive. And you let this happen. So pardon us if we're not afraid that we'll end up next on the chopping block when our usefulness reaches its end. A day will come when someone replaces you, someone like, heaven forbid, Danzo Shimura. And during that time, they will use the genetic information of this boy to conglomerate power. Power will be removed from the citizens and clans, and it'll be brought to the feet of this Hokage, and they will use it to impose their will. And the moment any of the clans decide to fight against him, he'll send his own squads in there to eradicate any and all offenders. Hiruzen was shocked. You really think this of me? Choza sighed. He didn't like the idea of breaking this to Hiruzen, but he realized the importance of being honest with the ones you loved. You know we love you, Hiruzen, Choza said. You're a wonderful man, kind and loving. This is not up for question. But you are easily used by those you trust and those you love. And we're afraid that those people will one day take over for you. The same people who had the entirety of the Uchiha clan killed. We fear for our clans and for our village. Us telling you this, it's not us wishing to break off or anything. It's us displaying our will of fire, that we're willing to do anything, including the hard stuff to save our village. We just want you to hear us and understand our concerns. Naruto is a threat to the balance of the village, and his continued existence here will throw the balance out of order. Hiruzen sat there and thought about what they were saying with an open mind. They were correct. This could lead to the downfall of the village. He looked out at Naruto as he played, wondering what he was supposed to do. As their meeting came to an end, he stood. Thank you for your time. I think I'll be off now. As he turned to leave, Shikaku called out to him. You know that we love you, right? Hiruzen turned back. I know you do. You love me and the village, and your honesty proves that to me. Thank you, but I have limited time in the day, and I only have one last stop to make. We'll all have a meeting about this sometime, Hiruzen. You, me, Choza, and all the other clan heads. We'll come up with an idea then. Just give us time to think about it. Hiruzen nodded. I will. He then ventured out with Naruto and headed to the Hyuga clan compound, where he planned to explain to them everything. He let Naruto do his thing. As Naruto ventured around the house, his bare feet sticking to the hardwood floor due to the heat causing the wood to sweat, he felt a bead of his own sweat rolling down the side of his face. He'd never experienced such intense heat. Was this a season? Which season was it? Had to be either spring or summer. He remembered reading about it in a book. Spring and summer were when things got warm, and fall and winter were when things got cold. As he walked, he stumbled into Hinata, and it was like love at first sight. The two hit the ground, but as she struck the floor and he fell too, their hearts soared higher. Naruto had never felt such a thing. It was as if time had slowed down for a moment and the gates of heaven had opened. Cherubim hovering above, singing their euphony. As soon as Naruto touched the ground with his rear, he was already up. He walked to Hinata's side. I'm so sorry, are you okay? He asked. As she laid there looking up at him, her cheeks grew redder as her face scrunched up like she was about to cry. She covered her face in her hands. Oh no, are you hurt? At just that moment, he felt a hand grab him by his collar and throw him back against the wall. Naruto hit the wall with a thud. He rubbed the back of his head, a dull, throbbing pain present in his skull. He opened his eyes to see a boy standing there with long brown hair, alabaster eyes, and skin to match. He stood there with a strong yet calm stance. All the same, his form was imposing to Naruto. What have you done to Lady Hinata? The boy asked. I accidentally walked into her as she rounded the corner. I knocked her down. I wanted to see if she was okay, and she started crying. Is she okay? Neji looked back at Hinata. She began to sit up. Don't hurt him, Neji. He didn't mean to. I just got embarrassed. I'm not hurt. Neji lowered his stance. He then proceeded to help Naruto stand again. My apologies. I am Lady Hinata's personal retainer. Nonsense. You're my cousin and one of my best friends, she said as he helped her stand up again. Naruto dusted himself off and then looked up. Hinata had the same eyes as Neji. Eyes Naruto recognized. You both have very pretty eyes. It's our Byakugan, Hinata said. It's the special dojutsu of our clan. Only people of our bloodline can possess it. Cool. I have it too, Naruto said as he turned them on for display. Neji and Hinata were shocked. You possess Hyuga blood, they asked? Naruto nodded. I have genes from every clan, including the Hyuga. They looked at him curiously. I can also do this. Naruto started cycling through dojutsu, including the Jogan and Tensaigan, then the Sharingan, its Mangekyo form, and the Rinnegan, before hitting the various other dojutsu in his repertoire. He then returned to Byakugan. Neji was confused. How is this possible? This almost seems unnatural. Nobody like you has ever existed in the history of the Hyuga clan. In fact, I'm certain that nobody like you has ever existed in the history of history. Neji seemed a little protective now of Hinata, though she was more intrigued by him than anything. She pushed past Neji. Would you like to play with us, Naruto? Naruto smiled. I would love to. All the while, Hiruzen was speaking to the clan head of the Hyuga. Hiyashi Hyuga sighed. You understand why we can't allow this, correct? Hiruzen looked down shamefully. I understand. The Byakugan is the sacred technique of your clan, passed down from generation to generation, with only those within your clan allowed to possess it. It's guarded with the utmost care, to the point that curse marks are utilized to keep it from falling into the wrong hands. But I beg you, please, spare Naruto. He has done nothing wrong and merely wishes to live. Can you not find it in your heart to compromise? And what do you suppose I do? It's either death or blindness. There's no middle road. Nobody outside of the Hyuga is allowed to have the Hyuga's dojutsu. This would be a betrayal to my ancestors, as well as to my clan if I allow this to stand. You need to decide what's most important here, the village or your own personal feelings. To say that this meeting did not go well was an understatement. It was building up to a near unanimous decision that Naruto's life should end, and Hiruzen didn't know what he could or should do about it. Was he supposed to put one life ahead of an entire village? Or should he let the village decide who lived and died based upon phantom fears that had yet to truly manifest? Fears that might never be validated in an uncertain future. He had no choice other than to go home with Naruto. Naruto would sit at the table and eat. Hiruzen had a bowl of food as well, but he was not eating like Naruto was. What's wrong, Grandpa? Naruto asked. At this point, Naruto was getting used to calling Hiruzen Grandpa. At first, Hiruzen had thought that Naruto was just being disrespectful by calling him Grandpa due to Hiruzen's age. However, Naruto had explained that if Orochimaru was his father, then Orochimaru's father must be Naruto's grandfather. And considering that Orochimaru had nobody save his team and his mentor, that made Hiruzen Naruto's grandfather, and even made Jiraiya and Tsunade his uncle and aunt, respectively. To this end, Naruto was even starting to refer to himself as Naruto Sarutobi. Since he came from every clan, he found it hard to choose just one, so he decided to take the surname of the man who was caring for him most, and it was pretty straightforward thinking, all things considered. Hiruzen looked up at the boy. Nothing you need to worry your little head over. Naruto sat there, disappointed for a moment. Hiruzen smiled. Mind reading won't work either, Naruto. I know you well enough. I'm not going to let you read my mind. Naruto seemed sad now. I just want to help and make sure that you're okay. Hiruzen couldn't help but love this boy. I know you do, but there are some things only I can carry. So just don't worry about it. It'll all be alright. And so, as time passed along, the clans decided that they needed to hold a meeting to discuss the fate of Naruto, and for that, Hiruzen was there. They had requested Naruto's presence, and so this would be the first time Naruto would hear of their plans for him. Hiruzen sat there and kept Naruto near. Remember, Naruto, do not speak unless spoken to. Do not interrupt the adults. You're going to need to trust me, alright? As the clan heads began to file in and take their seats, the meeting began. I want to urge you to all reconsider your stances on Naruto. See him with your own eyes, speak to him with your own voices, and hear him with your own ears. For what purpose should we change our verdict, Naruto? Hiyashi asked. Verdict? Naruto questioned. I don't understand. Hiyashi and the others looked to Hiruzen. Did you not tell him? Hiyashi asked. Hiruzen shook his head. This isn't something that any child should have to bear. But you've left him without preparation. It isn't something an ordinary child should have to bear, but he isn't an ordinary child. What are you talking about? Naruto asked. Let me explain it to you, Naruto, since it seems someone here has neglected to give you due forewarning, Hiyashi said. We're here to decide your fate. My fate? Naruto asked. Hiyashi nodded. You possess genetics from every clan, and possess the Kekai Genkai from every clan here in Konoha, past and present, and even a few we don't recognize. That makes you a danger to everyone, and that has left us to decide. Decide what? Naruto once again questioned. Hiyashi took a deep breath and let it out. Decide whether you should live or die. What? Naruto began to panic as tears of terror began to well up in his eyes. Why? Why do you want me to die? I just got here. I just started living. Your life poses an imminent threat to the village, its stability, and its citizens. You're too powerful, and what's worse, it seems you're easily created. The village wants to replicate what's within you in hopes of solving life's greatest issues. And why is that bad? Naruto demanded. Because if they do, that could make clans obsolete, and would conglomerate too much power to the central government, and would likely be a death sentence to the liberty of each citizen of the village. Hiruzen then spoke. I think you're being too rash. Genetics are far from the only power that can be used and abused. Some of you still have secret techniques. But you have more, Hiyashi said. You have a scroll filled with all of the most forbidden techniques in existence, and the only things we have that can stand against it are our secret techniques, which he somehow seems to know. I've read the reports. He possesses the shadow paralysis jutsu of the Nara clan. Did you tell them that? Or did you hide it? He possesses the raw mental power of the Yamanaka clan. It won't take him long to discover these powers. We're talking about more than Kekkei Genkai. We're talking genetic memory. That's just a theory, Hiruzen said. There's no proof that memory can be transferred through genetics. Is it though? Naruto is living, walking proof of that. He possesses all of our techniques, which are our only line of defense protecting us from you, keeping us from becoming the next Uchiha clan. You have the most powerful shinobi in all of history standing right there, and you're planning to learn how to recreate him. We know this because you've said it. We cannot let that happen. He must be destroyed. Hiruzen went to raise a finger, but suddenly stopped when he felt Naruto fall into his shoulders, sobbing. Why do they want to destroy me? I thought they were my family. You told me they were my family, Grandpa. You said they'd love me. Why do you want to kill me? Hiruzen looked down at Naruto and hugged him. Naruto continued. You said to trust you and that you would protect me, but I'm scared. What if they make you do it anyway? I don't want to die. I don't want to disappear forever. I want to live. I only just started. I only woke up a couple months ago. Are they going to take it away? Are they going to take my life away? Hiruzen almost began to break down into tears as well. He looked at the others. Please, you must reconsider. You think that this is good? How can the removal of life, innocent life from a child, be good? You say it's for the greater good, but it's only for selfish reasons. You say clans will be obsolete, and that you simply want what's good for members of your clans, but this boy, he is a member of your clan, and if you can't protect him, how can you protect the rest of your clan? It takes more than genetics to be a member of our clan, Hiyashi stated. Hiruzen looked to him. What does it take? A technique? He has that too. Or are you admitting that your techniques are not what makes your clan what they are? The room fell silent. You fear the future. So many people could benefit, including your own clan. Listen, with or without Naruto, your people could be oppressed. That's how government works. That's why it's your responsibility to take the will of fire into your own hands. You must make this village what you want it to be. Look at this boy. He pushed Naruto out to show them. They had seen him cry, weeping bitterly out of fear. Is this the strongest shinobi that you're so afraid of? He's but a child, crying for fear of what you'll do to him. He pulled Naruto back. When the first Hokage, Hashirama Senju, founded this nation, he did so in hopes that the entire village would become a single clan, one family, in hopes that this would inspire them to protect each other. He did so to ensure that no child had to die because of war, or because of issues between clans, to end violence. This conversation, this is not the will of fire. This boy represents everything that Hashirama Senju believed in, and if you kill him, then you kill Konoha's future. Is this how you always want it to be? A single village with lines drawn in the sand where children are segregated to their own communities? What do you expect to do if a woman of the Hyuga marries someone of another clan with an equally important Kekkei Genkai, like say an Uchiha? Would you demand that the Uchiha become a Hyuga? Would that not be the same as an Uchiha taking her from you? And what of the child who would have one of each dojutsu? Would you want to kill it too? Just think about what you're doing. You want to protect your clan. This boy is a member of your clan. Hiyashi thought about it. You act like we want the blood of a child on our hands. Hiyashi looked around. We have families too, and we're scared for them. The same as you're scared for Naruto. So tell us, what are we supposed to do then? Hiruzen looked around the table at them all. Treat them as a member of your clan. Are you sure you want that? Hiyashi asked. Hiruzen nodded. If it keeps him alive, then do so. Hiyashi sighed. Fine. He stood and walked over to Naruto. He would put his hand on the boy's forehead, and with a pulse of chakra, he would brand him with the curse mark. Naruto would cry out in pain and agony. Hiruzen was shocked. What did you do? You asked me to treat him like a member of our clan. If you want him to live and keep his dojutsu, then we need insurance that his cannot be stolen from him at the very least. And we need assurance that no matter what, we have the capabilities to control him and kill him if necessary. Hiruzen watched as Naruto fell limp. If you want the boy alive, Hiruzen, we'll keep him alive. But I think I can speak for all of us when I say this. If we find out that you're using the knowledge that you gained from this boy to build an army of Kekkei Genkai enhanced soldiers, we will not stand for it, and we will overthrow the village. We'll kill him and every other genetically altered soldier that you make. So heed my warning, and be careful with how you use him. And with that, the meeting was over. Everyone proceeded out of the room. Each of the members, as they left, walked over and placed their hand on Naruto, as if showing support. As the last of them, Inoichi, stopped. I'm sorry, Lord Fourth. While I agree to a point with Hiyashi, I don't agree with his decision to brand Naruto. We're going to have a discussion with him. We feel that was an infringement on our rights as well. We'll ensure that he never uses that mark without our express permission. He would then pat Naruto's head, not that Naruto knew. He was unconscious. Hiruzen just sat there silently with Naruto. Naruto had lost his freedom to the village. Hiruzen began to contemplate the village and how it worked, the hypocrisy of the clans. They were whining for their own freedom while demanding that the basic human rights of another be violated, all before taking away the freedom of an individual. Hiruzen began to wonder what liberty was at all, and how to promote it without overstepping his bounds. Looking at the curse mark, he realized that every member of the Hyuga possessed it outside of the main branch, of which Hiyashi was a part of. With the ability to harm and even kill in the palm of their hands, in one night a single rogue Hyuga clan member could kill the whole clan, and nobody could stop them. They forced jobs upon the Hyuga, as well as duty, and punished them for failing to deliver. How was that different from slavery? Hiyashi was afraid that the entire village would become the same thing that his own clan was. This was the issue. But what could he do? How could he fix this? If he attempted to force his will upon every clan, that would lead to an uprising. Was this really what the village was going to be? Hiruzen finally stood, cradling Naruto in his arms, and he'd simply walk out of the meeting room. Naruto rested for the remainder of the day. The day after, he was really upset. He at least seemed happy that he wasn't going to die. However, he was very upset because even though he would live, he was now under the thumb of the Hyuga, and there was dread in his heart in knowing that at any moment Hiyashi could just pull the plug and kill him. As he sat on the swing set, he swung gently back and forth. It wouldn't be long before Hinata and Neji appeared there by him. Naruto? Naruto didn't seem to be in much mood to talk to a Hyuga. Not because he was mad at Hinata or Neji, but because they reminded him of the situation that had him on the edge of a constant panic attack. "Can I sit down, Naruto?" Hinata asked. Naruto nodded. She sat on one of the swings nearby, while Neji sat on the other side. "Are you okay?" she asked. Naruto shook his head. "I got this thing in my head now. And if Hiyashi ever decides to kill me for any reason, he can just do it." Neji then spoke. "I understand the feeling." Naruto looked over. "You do?" Neji nodded. He then begrudgingly removed his forehead covering to display an X-shaped mark. Naruto saw it. "You have the same mark." Neji nodded. "Every Hyuga has one. Well, almost every one of them. Lady Hinata does not, nor does Lady Hanabi, because they're main branch members. We're told that the mark is to protect the specific techniques of our clan, of which you possess. Should we die, or should anyone try to remove our eyes will be sealed away so they can never be transplanted. I wish I didn't have them." Hinata looked over. "Naruto, there's no reason to be scared. My dad isn't mean. But if he put that on you, it's because he decided he doesn't want you to die. But he can't give up his duty to his clan. You're special. And your eyes, every form they take, they're beautiful. You should never be afraid of them, nor should you dislike them. Your eyes and your genes, they connect you to me. That makes you a member of my clan, and that's very important to me. You're very important to me." Neji sat there and swung back and forth. "I mean, you wanted to be a part of our family. You said so yourself, and now you are. That mark is proof." Hinata smiled. "I like you, Naruto. I'll talk to my dad and make sure he doesn't hurt you. You don't have to be scared. I also heard the other clans talking to him, telling him that if he makes any decisions without their permission, that he'll face consequences. That means the chances he'll use it against you are lower than him using it against me," Neji said. Whoop-de-doo. He jumped from the swing as soon as it reached its highest point, landing on the ground with enough force to kick up dust. "Come on, Lady Hinata. This conversation's bumming me out. I think I want to stop for ice cream to help me forget that I'm a member of the slave labor force." Hinata stopped swinging. "I think I'm gonna go now, Naruto. It was nice talking to you." She stopped for a moment and then kissed his cheek. She ran off after Neji. Naruto sat there silently and proceeded to swing a bit more, but as time passed, he eventually stood up and proceeded to leave the playground. As he did, he noticed something. Sitting by the river on a little dock for fishing boats was Sasuke. He was throwing stones out at the surface, causing ripples in the water. He was trying to skip them. He pulled his arm back at an angle before throwing with all of his might. The stones skipped over the water about 7 times before stopping. Naruto was intrigued. He walked down to him. "What are you doing?" Sasuke was silent for a moment. "Water cutting. It helps me perfect my throw." Naruto watched. "Can you teach me?" Sasuke scoffed. "You have the Sharingan, don't you? Just watch how I do it." Naruto then realized that he could do it. He activated his Sharingan. Sasuke pulled back his arm and began to toss the stone. "Can I try?" Naruto asked. Sasuke tossed a stone up to him. Naruto pulled his arm back and tried to throw it, but let go too quickly and accidentally murked a duck. Oops. Sasuke stood. "No, like this." He then pulled his arm back again and tossed the flat stone across the surface of the water. It skimmed and jumped and went about 5 times. Not my best throw. Naruto would then try to mimic what he did. He pulled back and then let go. The stone skipped 6 times. Wow, not bad for a beginner. Sasuke turned around. He then noticed Naruto's curse mark. "What's that?" Naruto touched the mark with a little shame. Oh, it's the curse mark the Hyuga planted on me to control me. Sasuke scoffed. Bull, that should be illegal. He skipped another stone. Still, you should be a little proud of it. Why? Naruto asked. Because it's proof that your potential is so great that the Uchiha are scared that you'll be a threat. And with the eye of the Uchiha, why wouldn't you? Naruto smiled. I just hope I get to live a normal life. Sasuke shook his head. That'll never happen. Then again, what is normal anyway? Together the two talked and played. Despite this moment being short and somewhat uneasy, Naruto enjoyed it. This was ice breaking underfoot. This was Naruto finally managing to do that thing that Hiruzen said would happen. This was him befriending Sasuke. This made Naruto happy. But all the same, as he watched Sasuke return home, Naruto knew that he needed to go home as well. So he turned and began to walk back to the Hokage's residence. Despite everything, he was starting to feel a little better. At least he was still alive, and in the end, that's all that mattered. As night fell over the village, Hiruzen tucked Naruto into his bed. Naruto was currently wearing a little white cloth around his forehead. It was obviously to hide his curse mark. Such an obvious place. Hiruzen was still rather upset at Hiyashi for branding Naruto without warning. This should not have happened to Naruto, but Hiruzen was glad that it seemed the worst was behind them. Naruto may now have to live with a curse mark for the rest of his life, but at least he would have a life, and that was enough for Hiruzen. Still, it pained him to see Naruto suffering like this, to the point that even in their own home, he was too self-conscious about his curse mark to remove the Hachimaki from his head. Hiruzen understood, however, and chose to say nothing about it. After everything that had happened, and the concept that at any moment someone could decide that he shouldn't live and fry his brain was a terrifying concept. And the fact that Naruto was sleeping at all seemed to be a miracle. He was gonna have to talk with Hiyashi about this later. Even the other clan heads believed this to be a slightly drastic option, which seemed hypocritical to Hiruzen, as they were literally considering whether or not to kill Naruto at that moment. But at least they agreed with him on that front. It seemed a lot more likely that he could convince Hiyashi to remove the mark in favor of some other insurance policy, but until then, Naruto would just have to deal with it. After ruffling Naruto's hair, Hiruzen stood and made his way to the door, where he opened it and stepped through. Closing it behind him, he'd proceed to make his way back to his office. Once there, he took his seat and began going over the paperwork that he needed to do. Various petitions for community projects, permits, and other legalities that fell to him. While this seemed less a job for a ninja and more the job of a bureaucrat, Hiruzen was technically both. The job of being Hokage was not what everyone believed it to be. Hiruzen sometimes wondered how many people would set their goals on being Hokage if they actually knew what it was that a Hokage did. As Hiruzen looked over every project, he kept the annual budget in mind while deciding which projects to approve, which to deny, which to put on hold for the time being, and which to allow to move now. This time around, most of the petitions were actually worth something, but most of them didn't line up with the budget or were so far down below priorities that it didn't seem feasible at the moment. It was these projects that Hiruzen had to deny for now. That was until they got enough money to perform them. Hiruzen continued his work until he heard the door creak open in front of him. His eyes drifted from the papers in his hand to the door at the other side of the room, and he saw the familiar blonde hair and blue eyes of the one he had only just now put to sleep. Oh, Naruto! What are you doing out of bed? Naruto stepped in. Immediately, Hiruzen knew something was off. Naruto wasn't wearing his PJs. Instead, he was wearing an all-black outfit with a green flak jacket over the top. Hiruzen sat forward. Naruto? It was then that he noticed that Naruto wasn't wearing his Hachimaki on his forehead, but what was truly a shock was that there was no curse mark there. You're not! Hiruzen would suddenly take 2 shuriken to the chest as he was then pinned to the wall by a flurry of kunai, each one piercing his arms and legs. Hiruzen was in a lot of pain. The form of the boy he had loved drew closer. For the self-proclaimed strongest ninja in the village, you were pathetically easy to bring down. The boy threw another kunai, this time into Hiruzen's throat. Hiruzen gargled at first before his eyes rolled up. The boy would walk over to the scroll of seals and would lift it from its pedestal and would proceed to rush away with it, leaving Hiruzen to die. As Naruto was sleeping peacefully in bed, he heard people rushing past his door, yelling. In curiosity, he opened the door. What's going on? He asked, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. One of the shinobi slowed down for but a moment. There was an attempt on the Hokage's life. Naruto's eyes widened as every sign of his sleepiness was suddenly covered by a look of absolute terror. Oh no, is he alright? Naruto asked. The shinobi mentioned that he'd been transferred to Konoha General for medical help in an effort to save his life. Naruto would grab his stuff and head to the hospital. Hiruzen would be back for quite a few hours in surgery. Naruto waited outside. The fluorescent lights flickered in and out as few people passed through the halls. Most of those he saw were shinobi safeguarding the hospital, turning it into a virtual fortress while the doctors and surgeons passed by, doing their thing. Naruto sat there as his drowsiness was starting to overtake him. He had no idea how long Hiruzen might be under the knife, so he laid over on the seat and proceeded to fall asleep. He would wake up a little later to find a blanket had been cast over his side, pulled up to his shoulders. Where it came from, he didn't know. He didn't care either, because it was keeping him warm. But by this time, the sun was already starting to rise, and it was then that the doctors came out of the OR to talk to Naruto and the Anbu captain Kakashi about the nature of the wounds. The wounds pierced quite a few organs, and he lost a lot of blood. Thankfully, the damage done seems to have mostly been repaired, but his heart stopped 4 times on the operating table. His body has responded to this by entering a coma. When, or even if he'll wake up, we can't predict. The white-haired operative wearing the kitsune mask nodded solemnly without a word. He began to walk away. Naruto looked at the doctor. "Can I see him?" he asked. The doctor nodded. "Just this way." The doctor led Naruto to the room. There, Naruto saw Hiruzen. He seemed so different than he had the last time he'd seen him, no more than 6 hours ago. It blew Naruto's mind. The man was pale, his eyes sunken, and now he was attached to a ventilator and a heart monitor, both designed to keep his vital functions going. An IV stood beside Hiruzen, its long tube running down and into his veins to keep him hydrated and nourished while his body healed. Naruto walked over to Hiruzen and took a seat. "There's no point," the doctor said. "We don't even know if he's going to wake up again. And if he does, there's no guarantee that it won't be a year or more from now. I would suggest going home and letting us work." All the same, Naruto sat down. "Work as you need to. I won't be in the way." The doctor shrugged. "Suit yourself." As Naruto sat there beside the elderly man, he felt as if this were something he had to do. After all, how many times had Naruto been in the hospital and Hiruzen been there for him? Hiruzen would be here with Naruto if Naruto had been the one attacked. He deserved the same courtesy. Naruto would take Hiruzen's hand and stroke it with his thumb. "It's okay. You're gonna be okay. Don't worry about it," Naruto said to the vegetized ancient. "The Anbu will figure out who did this, and they'll put an end to them." As more time in the day passed and noon was coming in, Naruto finally woke up again. He found that he had fallen asleep there by Hiruzen's side. At first, he hoped that this was all just a bad dream, but it wasn't. Hiruzen had been attacked, and now the village was without a leader. Or so Naruto had believed. Being young, he didn't understand the complexities of the political games played in Konoha, nor did he realize that the village itself had safeguards for this. The village's leadership would be turned over to the council for the time being, until Hiruzen could return to duty. But now Naruto was alone, or so he felt. He felt alone. That's not to say he couldn't live still. Going back to the Hokage's residence, he would get something to eat. He had enough food and was free to stay there and sleep as he had since he had gotten to Konoha, but all the same, he once more felt like an outcast. Outcast from his father, Orochimaru. Outcast from his village and the clans he was attached to. And now, the only family he had left was laying in a hospital bed, a machine breathing for him. As Naruto sat there with his ramen, he couldn't eat. He had specifically chosen his favorite as a way to incentivize his body to actually consume something, but now even the scent of a slightly spicy, definitely tangy chicken ramen bowl was not enough to cause his stomach to rumble. "Screw it," Naruto said as he tried to down the whole cup at once, attempting to get as much nutrients as possible before his body said no. This was not a good idea, as his body immediately rejected it all, causing him to puke into the trash can. And now his favorite ramen was tainted. With Hiruzen being harmed, and now having vomited back up that which he loved, the taste would forever be ruined by the feelings he was currently having. Feeling worse than before, he decided to simply get something to wash the hideous taste from his mouth, and at least give his body something to run on. He got some milk from the fridge and poured it into a glass. He then grabbed the chocolate sauce and poured that in too. Stirring it all together, he held up the chalky milk he had made because he was epic. No, not even all the memes the kids at the academy had shown him on the internet could make him feel better. As he drank it, he walked to the Hokage's office and began to look around. The office had been laid to waste. He looked at the wall where he saw Hiruzen had been pinned. He knew that this was where he'd been pinned due to the kunai holes in the wall in the shape of a man. That and all the blood pooled up on the wall and on the floor. The room had been ransacked. According to reports, the scroll of seals had been taken, but they couldn't tell by who. Naruto continued looking through. Kakashi had been looking through the scene as well, and with his Sharingan eye, he tended to be able to see things that others couldn't. But even the Sharingan had its limits. The Sharingan and Byakugan both. Naruto needed to know what it was that had happened in this room, so he activated his Senrigan, the only eye that could tell him for certain. Time passed backward for Naruto as he rewound it back around 10 to 11 hours. In his eyes, suddenly the room was back in order. He saw Hiruzen working, doing paperwork, talking to himself, trying to convince himself to decide whether to choose road repair or building repair this month. It was then that the door opened. Naruto looked back, and to his horror, he saw himself enter the room. But it wasn't himself, was it? As this dark doppelganger entered, Hiruzen stood and walked around his desk to meet him. But to his surprise, and Naruto's as well, Hiruzen was struck with shuriken, pinned to the wall with kunai, and then pierced through the throat. The doppelganger then stole the scroll of seals and made his way to the window. It stopped though and turned around with a smile. The mysterious boy also activated a set of Senrigan and looked directly toward where Naruto would be looking and smiled. "Our master's expecting you. I offer you an invitation. Follow me and come alone." The shinobi jumped out the window. Naruto would grab his items and weapons and make his way back to the office where he'd activate his Senrigan again. He'd follow the phantom of the doppelganger and rush off in that direction. Jumping from rooftop to rooftop, he wondered why he hadn't informed the Anbu about this. The clone had told him to come alone, so chances were if he didn't, Orochimaru would know, and Naruto would never get to meet with him. Conversely, Naruto wondered that even if he did go alone, was there any chance he could do anything against Orochimaru? Naruto had a lot of cool abilities, but the phantom clone he was following would also be there, which would likely have the same powers as Naruto. In the end, it boiled down to the fact that Orochimaru was smarter. He created Naruto. Was it any less feasible to think that he knew all of Naruto's strengths and weaknesses and how to exploit them? All the same, Naruto needed to go after Orochimaru, and he needed to stop him. This was likely their only chance to do so. Naruto may have had the cards stacked against him, and the chances of his success were low, but even if the chances of him succeeding were 1 in a million, those chances were better than 0 in a million. As they reached the edge of the village, Naruto followed the clone non-stop, well into the cool of the day as the sun was setting, hiding behind a veil of twilight. Naruto leapt from limb to limb, his feet hitting the creaking wood as he jumped. Moving deeper through a forest at incredible speeds, they eventually came to a stop before another underground laboratory, not too dissimilar from the one he had escaped from before. He followed the clone in before switching from his Senrigan to his Byakugan. The sad news was that even with the Byakugan, it was hard to see. The good news, though, was that due to there being so many shadows nearby, the shadow paralysis jutsu would be very effective. But Naruto supposed that this went in both directions. Maybe he could use it, but they could as well. But that was fine. In that way, they'd reach a stalemate, which would give Naruto enough time to think up an escape plan. As he walked deeper through, he would see a light coming from a door. Naruto stepped to it and opened it up. As soon as he did, he felt his jaw hit the floor. The room was filled with clones, each one a mirror image of the other, a mirror image of himself. Every person in that room, save Kabuto, could lay claim to the name of Naruto. It was then that one of the clones took Naruto's hand and led him to a throne-like chair at the back of the room where another was sitting, slumped in a somewhat comfortable-looking position. Naruto recognized the pale skin and purple markings around the eyes, and the hair color was also black, but all in all, this was still a clone of himself. "Welcome home, Naruto," a voice all too familiar said to him. Naruto was stunned. "Father?" Naruto looked him up and down. "But you look like me." "Indeed I do," Orochimaru said. "This was the end result of your creation. This was your purpose the whole time, to serve as my vessel." "But how could you do this? You gave birth to us." Orochimaru shook his head. "No, I gave birth to myself. Being my vessel is an honor bestowed upon few, and now I have a new one. And the other clones are allowed to live as they wish. In the next 3 years, I will ask another vessel, which could be any of the many here, and with their permission, I'll take over their body." "Permission?" Naruto asked. Orochimaru nodded. "I learned not too long ago what happens when you try to take the body of a Sharingan user by force. The body you see before you was willfully given up by the clone that inhabited it. Their subconscious will remain a part of me forever, and will live eternally within me. That is why it's an honor to be my vessel, because just as much as I become a part of you, you become a part of me." "Why did you attack Mr. Hiruzen?" Naruto asked. "Because he was too weak. He attempted to destroy my work that took me years to accomplish. He drove me out and denied me what was rightfully mine. It's the small minds like his that are ruining the world. Minds who talk ceaselessly of sacrifice, but the moment they're asked to make a sacrifice, they flee. My studies can help this world. They can improve lives, save lives, and eventually cure death. Imagine a world where nothing dies, an immortal world. That is the world I wish to create, and Hiruzen stepped in the way, so I tried to kill him." Naruto took a step back. "You're evil." It was as if only now did the realization truly hit him. It was as if only now did Naruto finally come to terms with what he'd been told. The illusion was broken. His father was not a good man. "You're going to destroy Konoha, aren't you?" Naruto asked, looking deep into Orochimaru's mind with his telepathy. Orochimaru was not hiding anything from Naruto. Naruto was free to peer deeply into Orochimaru's mind, and there he witnessed his village burning. Orochimaru was silent for a moment. "Why do you care?" Orochimaru asked flatly. "Isn't this village run by the clans who couldn't even decide whether you should live or not?" Orochimaru stood from his seat. He walked over and pulled off Naruto's forehead protector to show the cursed mark of the Hyuga clan. "Doesn't it scare you to think that at any moment they could decide that you're not worth keeping around and just burn your brain to ashes?" Naruto was silent. "We're your family, Naruto. We're the ones you belong to. Return to us and all is forgiven." "You tried to kill me," Naruto said. Orochimaru nodded. "At that time, I had planned to kill you for disobeying me. I knew you would attempt to run and do to me the same thing Hiruzen tried to do all of those years ago. You were going to let your emotions get the best of you and ruin the perfect future that I'd planned for the world. But right now, I offer you a chance to do something greater and to live out your purpose in life. If not to serve me, then why else were you created? You're mine, and deep down you know that. You always knew it, and now I offer you a blank slate, a clean record. I forgive your past transgressions, Naruto. Return home to my love and fulfill your reason for living." Orochimaru once more looked at the mark on Naruto's forehead. "Your powers are yours, and this curse mark is nothing more than a Damocles sword meant to keep you in check. I will do no such thing to you. Maybe I will try to kill you should you betray me again, but I'll at least keep the playing field fair. I'll have a way to remove it for you soon. I will have to find a way to remove it for you." Orochimaru looked into Naruto's eyes. "So what say you, my son? Will you come home to me? Will you help me make a better world, without disease, without death?" Orochimaru offered Naruto his hand. Naruto looked down at the hand, palm open, and pushed toward him. This was Naruto's purpose. This was the reason he was created. And had Konoha really treated him much better than Orochimaru? They wanted him dead as much as Orochimaru did. Why should Naruto care about them? He reached out and grabbed Orochimaru's hand, but as he did so, he was dragged down memory lane, forced by his own subconscious to remember something. Naruto saw himself holding another hand, but looking up, he saw Ino. She held his in the most kind way. She turned it over to expose the cut on his finger and began to tend to it. She'd been so kind to him. Then he remembered the first time he ever met Shikamaru and Choji. Trying to remain formal, he offered a handshake, which they thought was weird for a kid to do, but accepted it anyway before telling him to just chill. There was no reason to be so formal. Then he saw his hand in the hand of Neji Hyuga, who was helping him off the ground after giving him secret lessons in the gentle fist technique, despite Hiyashi's desire that Naruto be excluded. "If they believe you're Hyuga enough to possess a curse mark, then you're Hyuga enough to learn our special technique," Neji had said. Hinata was there to cheer him on. "Now, the trick is in knowing which tenketsu have the most impact on the human body. Try again." Lastly, he saw an image in his head of Hiruzen. Naruto had tears in his eyes as he realized the curse mark placed upon him could steal his life at any moment. Yet Hiruzen's hand had reached down and took Naruto's up. "What do you say we go to the park?" Hiruzen asked. He led Naruto out. As Naruto gripped Orochimaru's hand, a smile drew across his face. "I'm sorry, Papa, but I've already found my reason to live. My new purpose, and I can't let you destroy that for the sake of revenge." Orochimaru sighed. "That's sad. Looks like I'll have to change your mind some other way." He then bit Naruto's neck, causing him to stumble back. He pulled his hand away and saw a little blood upon it. Naruto was starting to see double and his ability to hear was growing impaired. "Take him to the brig. We'll deal with him after we destroy Konoha." Naruto then felt himself falling unconscious. He would be dragged down the halls toward the cells where he'd be thrown in and left there. Naruto wasn't sure how long he was out. All he knew was that he needed to get out. He stood and walked over to the cell's door and saw the lock. Kneeling in front of it, he examined it with his Byakugan. It was impressive, with various mechanisms that made it near impossible to pick. It required a key to work, which is when Naruto began getting to work. He utilized his Shikotsumyaku to form a bone protrusion from his fingertip. With it, he began to push the bone into the lock. There, he used his Byakugan to find all of the pins and began to press them in all the proper places, only going so far as they needed. He managed to manipulate his bone structure to press down every pin and then twisted his finger. There was a clicking sound that rivaled ASMR levels of pleasure as the lock unlatched. Naruto would then have to fight his way out. Or maybe not. There was only one clone there, and this clone, like him, had the attention span of a fly, and was too busy reading through a copy of Shonen Jump. Naruto took advantage of this and would knock the clone out before switching clothes, and throwing him into the brig and locking him up. Naruto looked down at his new outfit and smiled. Now I should be able to just walk right out. The night was calm, and Sasuke was doing his own thing. He always did his own thing, but tonight was special. Due to his overwhelming boredom, he decided to do something he rarely ever did, which was go out during the nighttime. And what was it that he decided to do? Go down to the river that ran through Konoha and do a little fishing. For most children, fishing was a boring pastime, but for Sasuke, it helped him focus and calm down. He could work out any issue he had while reeling it in. It didn't matter to him if he caught a fish or not. Honestly, he had never caught a fish at this spot, and he was beginning to wonder if there even were fish in the river, but that didn't matter to him. The repetitive motions helped his heart calm down and helped him to work through whatever issues were going through his mind. And right now he was thinking a bit too much about Itachi, about the destruction of his clan. But that led to Sasuke thinking about Naruto. Naruto was a conglomeration of every clan and an unnatural person created by science. Sasuke ended up wondering if he should count Naruto as an Uchiha clan member, since his Uchiha clan membership was based on genetics that were technically stolen. But as he did so, he pushed these thoughts from his mind. What was it to be an Uchiha clan member? Was it the Sharingan? No, many Uchiha clan members never had or never could awaken it, and in some cases, maybe that was for the best. The Sharingan brought with it emotional baggage, and it was specifically for this reason why the Uchiha were dead, and the Fuma clan was still alive. But all the same, Naruto had the Sharingan, the Rinnegan too. So was it his genetics? Well, he had those too. Was it simply that he was from stolen genetics? No. Sasuke had once known a shinobi very close to his father, the most honorable shinobi he had ever known at that age, and that shinobi was born from a single mother who had not consented to the action that created him. So if it wasn't genetics, Kekkei Genkai, or procurement of DNA that made someone an Uchiha, then what was it? It was heart. That was what Sasuke settled on. Anyone who wanted to be an Uchiha clan member and dedicated their lives to serving the clan was a member of the clan. And right now, Naruto wanted it. He wanted to be a member of the clan. He wanted to serve the clan for the betterment of the clan. Yes, he had a lot of strange genetics that would connect him to other clans, but it seemed almost as if those clans didn't want him. Sasuke stood. It was then that he decided in his heart that Naruto would be his brother. He would be Naruto Uchiha of the Uchiha clan. He reeled in his line and picked up everything he had brought out to fish. He was going to go straight to the Hokage's residence and tell Naruto this good news personally, or so he planned to do. That was until the village suddenly came under attack. Strategic assault. Every major clan at once was being attacked, and the main part of the village was now occupied. Sasuke rushed forward, his Sharingan activated. As he came to the center of town, standing amongst the flames, he saw the image of Naruto. Naruto, what are you doing? Suddenly, another clone appeared, and Sasuke immediately recognized that these were not actually Naruto, but in fact his clones. Sasuke started folding his hands into various signs in hopes of creating a jutsu, Fireball Jutsu. He released a mass of flames at the clone, only for the clone to hold out its hand and absorb the chakra. In the Hyuga clan compound, the Hyuga were taken off guard. The clones pushed into their home and began utilizing their various techniques that they had to attack. The Hyuga, however, would respond by using their gentle fist. These clones may have possessed Byakugan, but just because they didn't mean they could use it properly. Hiyashi was out there fighting. With the gentle fist, he killed 3 different clones at once. As he went to kill the 4th, that clone utilized Shikotsumyaku to create a bone protrusion, causing Hiyashi to impale his own hand on the bone. He pulled his hand back as blood began to pour. He looked back at his daughters. Hinata was standing there, the toddler Hanabi in her arms. "Girls, get out of here! Run!" Hinata obeyed. She hated to leave her father behind, but she knew he was a greater warrior than she, one of the most skilled shinobi the Hyuga had ever produced, and if this was too much for him, it would definitely be too much for her. As she and Hanabi ran, however, they were stopped by another clone carrying a kunai. Looking into the red eyes of Naruto, the girls felt fear. The Mangekyo looking back at them felt so cold, so merciless. It approached them, but as it did, a voice shouted, 8 trigrams, 64 palms! Suddenly, Neji rushed into their rescue, striking out at the 63 most important tenketsu on the clone's body before finishing it off by striking it in the solar plexus with the 64th, completely shutting down its chakra pathway system, causing the clone to die. As the clone fell over and perished, Neji grabbed Hinata's hand and began to run with her. "What's happening?" she asked. "Konoha is under attack." The noble clans are the first targets. We're the pillars of this society. If we go down, the whole village will collapse under its own weight. We need to get you and as many Hyuga as possible to safety. If we can do this, we might at least be able to limit the damage done in the attack. As they rushed off though, they'd be stopped by another group of clones. They were surrounded. Neji, lowering down into his stance, would tell Hinata that he'd make an opening for her. When he did, she needed to run for her life. Neji rushed forward and took out 2 clones in the way, opening a hole for her to escape through. Neji then clogged that hole by staying there and striking with the gentle fist technique. Hinata kept running. By this time, Hanabi was crying. Hinata wanted to cry too, tears welling up in her eyes for fear of what might be happening to her parents, to what fate Neji might be suffering now, but she stayed strong. She had a job to do. There'd be time to cry later, and now was not that time. As she ran, she would be stopped by 2 more clones, and Hinata would put Hanabi down. "Stay behind me, Hanabi." She then lowered down into her stance. As the 2 clones drew closer, she was surprised when suddenly one clone attacked the other, suppressing his tenketsu. The clone went down, leaving the other one standing over it. The remaining clone looked up. "Hinata, it's me, Naruto. Hurry up, we gotta go." "Wait," she demanded. "How do I know it's you?" Naruto stood there silently. He removed his forehead protector to show the mark on his forehead. "Neji once said that if I was considered Hyuga enough to have this curse mark, then I should be considered Hyuga enough to be taught the gentle fist." Hinata ran to him and hugged him. "Please, we have to save Neji." Naruto nodded. "I will, but right now we need to get you out of here. Go find somewhere safe to hide." Naruto would then rush off to help Neji. Neji nearly attacked Naruto until he noticed the curse mark. "Couldn't have shown up at a better time." Naruto nodded. "I know. I'm gonna make you an opening. I need you to get Hinata out of here." Neji nodded. Naruto then covered Neji's escape. He had more training in certain arts than these clones, so he believed that he would be able to bring them down. It seemed they had no training in the gentle fist, so he would use that to his advantage. Dancing about them in the way Neji had taught, Naruto brought down the remaining clones. As Naruto looked them over, he wondered why it was that they'd chosen Orochimaru over their own freedom. They were like himself, but instead of choosing the right way, they chose differently. What had Orochimaru done to them? Naruto examined closely with his Byakugan and discovered that each clone was under a mass genjutsu, designed to make them enthralled to Orochimaru's will. Naruto so easily could have ended up the same way, and perhaps Orochimaru had tried when Naruto met with him, but it was Naruto's memories of his friends that kept him safe. That meant that the only chance Konoha had to survive was if Naruto found Orochimaru and put a stop to him. Unless he did that, the genjutsu would continue. But where would Orochimaru go? Suddenly, Naruto knew. He headed to Konoha General. Hiruzen was completely unaware of what was going on. He remained comatose and was laying in bed, his room being protected by an entire squad of Anbu agents. But even they stood no chance against Orochimaru, who would bring them all down using his Shikotsumyaku. As Orochimaru entered, his bone dagger drenched in the blood of his enemies, he stepped from the darkness into the light cast from an overhead lamp. "It's shameful seeing you this way, Hiruzen-sensei. To think that all it took to fell the god of shinobi was a familiar face and a few shuriken. I guess old age claims everyone. Maybe if you had sponsored me instead of trying to destroy my life's work, you'd be benefiting from a younger body that could keep you alive forever." As Orochimaru drew closer, he spoke yet again. They say that comatose patients can still hear the voices of those around them, and even if they're not active, may still be conscious to a point. I certainly hope you are. I want you to hear the sound of your own death. Orochimaru drew closer, but as he did, Naruto broke through the door. "Father, stop!" Orochimaru sighed and looked back. "Naruto, you should have known better than to meddle further. If you had remained in that cell, your life would have been far better. Better as your slave? Better as a puppet trapped under your genjutsu?" Naruto asked. "Better because you would still be alive," Orochimaru responded with a smile. Naruto stood there silently. "I don't think it would be. I'd rather be dead than to be forced to do as you say." Orochimaru laughed. "If that's the case, then you're free to choose death." "No, father. I'm going to choose life, the life that I want." "No," Orochimaru said. "You choose to be a slave to someone else's whims. Look at that mark on your forehead. It's proof that you are and forever will be a slave, and when they don't need you anymore, they'll throw you away. Don't you get it? That's your lot in life. You were created to serve, and regardless of who your master is, you'll always serve." Naruto shook his head. "Not today. Not any longer. Even if it kills me, I'll no longer be a slave." "Then come and die," Orochimaru said as he lunged at Naruto with his bone dagger. As the two of them tussled, the sound of explosions could be heard. Naruto formed a dagger of his own. He would try to use shadow paralysis to freeze Orochimaru in place, but to his horror, Orochimaru utilized the same technique to shield himself from it. Suddenly, Orochimaru's eyes switched to Rinnegan and utilized Shinra Tensei to push Naruto through the wall and out onto the streets. Naruto lay there. He began to rise up from the ground to his feet. Orochimaru started to speak. You know, I came to learn recently that I could simply cast omniprisms to get whatever I want. He lifted Naruto up and stabbed him in the stomach. As Naruto coughed up blood, Orochimaru pulled him closer. Do you know why I didn't just cast it now and force the world to forget who I am? Naruto felt his blood exiting the wound, a warm, sticky feeling soaking the front of his shirt, seeping through his stolen flak jacket. Because I want the world to know that it was Orochimaru and Orochimaru alone that destroyed the Hidden Leaf Village. He then threw Naruto back. Naruto lay there on the ground, staring up into the sky at the stars, his hand lowered to his wound as if making a futile attempt to staunch the bleeding. Naruto looked at his own bone dagger and gripped it tightly as he rose to his feet again. Pathetic. He rushed at Naruto once more. Naruto called all of his training to mind and suddenly stepped forward into Orochimaru's strike. It was as if the entire world slowed down. Naruto activated a single Sharingan and a single Byakugan. Doing so allowed him to see things in a whole new light. With the Sharingan, he got the perception that made it seem as if time were creeping to a halt. And with the Byakugan, he had the magnification to see every tenketsu in Orochimaru's body. With his left hand's blade, he pushed Orochimaru's weapon away, and with his right hand, he'd push his fingers forward, searching for tenketsu to strike. Hitting them, Orochimaru was shocked. The shock caused him to drop his own blade. As if a certain limit within him had shattered, Naruto began utilizing the gentle fist technique. His willpower forcing him to open his inner gates to increase his speed, Naruto utilized a new technique. 8 trigrams, 361 palms. Naruto began quickly striking every tenketsu Orochimaru had. His movements were so quick that his strikes were breaking the sound barrier. Furthermore, the speed was so intense that Naruto could feel his very muscles burning and tearing. As he reached the final strike, he raised his palm up. 361 palms! He pushed his hand into his solar plexus. Orochimaru flew back and hit the ground. He was dead before Naruto had even finished the technique. This was the definition of overkill, but Naruto didn't care. He needed to be sure. But as Orochimaru's body slumped, Naruto fell out from underneath him. He hit the ground. With Orochimaru's death, the clones stopped fighting. Victory was attained, and as the village was reclaimed, it didn't take them long to recapture the village's center, which led them to finding Naruto outside of Konoha General. Hiyashi stood there and looked back at the other clan heads. See? This is why we should have executed him a long time ago. This is the threat that he presents. The other clan heads couldn't help but agree, even if they didn't really want to. The point was, Naruto was too strong, and the fact that he could so easily be replicated was even worse. Hiyashi sighed. It's best that we simply end him. He raised his fingers to begin utilizing the curse mark. Naruto screamed out in agony as the mark was activated. He could feel the very nerve endings in his brain shattering. Tears formed in his eyes and streamed down his cheeks. The other clan heads could hardly watch. Even Hiyashi could hardly watch. But this was for the best, right? He was too dangerous to live. It was then that Hiyashi would be knocked back. He hit the ground and opened his eyes to see what had stopped him. Standing there in front of Naruto was Sasuke Uchiha. I am as much a clan head as you are, Sasuke said. This boy possesses Uchiha blood. If you kill him, that will be a slight against the Uchiha clan, and it'll form a grudge that we'll hold against you forever. Hiyashi stood. I'm sorry, Sasuke, but as it stands, he's a threat to the village. Your clan simply is not large enough to outvote you. Are you so sure, Dad? A voice said. Suddenly, Hinata and Hanabi appeared behind Sasuke. Neji took his place beside his 2 charges. Hinata! 2 more appeared there. I know this is a real drag, Lord Hyuga, but we can't let you do this. Shikamaru and Choji stepped up as well, standing between the clan heads and Naruto. But they weren't alone. Ino was there as well. Listen, I want you to know this. If you kill Naruto, the one who saved the village from Orochimaru, we'll hate you forever. We'll never forgive it. Naruto is not a threat to you, Shikamaru said. The science that made him dies with Orochimaru, and even if it didn't, you're looking at progress. If Orochimaru doesn't do it, someone else will. You can't stop the progress of science. All we can do is learn to adapt. One day, every Kekkei Genkai will be something everyone can get. One day, the Hyuga will have Sharingan. One day, the Uchiha will possess the Shikotsumiyaku Bone Blades. You can't stop it. Even if you killed Naruto, it would still happen. All you'd accomplish here is killing the hero who saved the leaf. Is that really what you want to do? The clan heads all looked to each other. Shikaku walked over and stood by Shikamaru. I'm convinced. I'll stand with the Uchiha clan's head on this one. Inoichi would walk over as well. I've known Naruto longer than any of you. I can vouch for his heart. Regardless of what the future brings, he deserves this freedom, and that's a hill I'll die on. Choza then walked over too. Me too. Me too. I choose to stand by Naruto. Shikaku looked around. That's the whole Ino Shikacho trio. And with Hiruzen obviously on our side, I think we now outvote you, Hiyashi. Hinata walked over to him. Dad, I know you don't want to do this to Naruto. I can see it in your eyes. Hiyashi looked down. Hinata, if I don't, It could end the Hyuga. She shook her head. The Hyuga will not die so long as someone exists to carry on their legacy. We're a lot more than genes and techniques. A lot more than traditions and Byakugan. We're a family. It's time to let the old ways go and just let whatever will be, be. Hiyashi looked down at his hand. You're right. The Hyuga have always been so stuck in our old ways that we forget what these traditions were designed to protect in the first place. Hiyashi approached the now unconscious Naruto. He placed his hand on the boy's forehead and removed the curse mark. Naruto, I would be grateful if you would choose to be a Hyuga. Naruto would awaken once more in the hospital. His entire body was burned and it hurt to even move. But as he opened his eyes, he saw that he wasn't alone. Hiruzen? He tried to sit up only to fall back as his muscles felt like they were about to pop. Hiruzen put his hand down on Naruto's shoulder. Calm. I'm here. I'm okay. Naruto looked around and saw various balloons and flowers around the room. What's all this? Hiruzen looked back. This is the gratitude of every clan in Konoha. They're all happy you're okay. Naruto seemed confused. I thought they would hate me after what happened. Hiruzen shook his head. No, they opened their eyes to you. You've touched so many hearts that you even began to tear down the oppressive traditions that were ruining the lives of so many. Wow, I did? Naruto asked. He smiled as tears came to his eyes. They really are my family. Hiruzen smiled and put his hand over Naruto's. We're all your family, Naruto, and we always will be. In the aftermath of the attack, Naruto was respected as a member of every clan, but his was not the only happy ending. With the clones freed, they had nowhere left to go, so each clone would be allocated to a clan who would volunteer to take care of them. They all looked the same and few of them had names, so after being taken in, Konoha would name them and tattoo each of their names on their arm to give them a sense of uniqueness. Each clone would go on to live happily as a member of a specific clan. This saw the early resurgence of the Uchiha clan, and as years moved on, generations passed by. Naruto and his clones would mingle with the citizens of Konoha, and eventually their genes would evenly spread out over each clan. Every clan began gaining access to other Kekkei Genkai through this until all clans shared them. But this did not result in the end of clans, au contraire. Just as Hinata had said, the legacy of each clan lived on, and their specific ways of life continued. And through this unity, Konoha would go on to be a beacon of peace for the future. And that's the end of the story. I hope you enjoyed it. I liked this video series because it allowed me to explore what it means to be family, what the value of family traditions are, and what the true value of a human life is. Every life matters, no matter how it was conceived or what genetics it inherits. Life is sacred, and everyone is created equal. And that's something that we should remember. That's a legacy worth passing on to the future. In a world so divided, it can be easy to forget that we all inhabit a little beautiful blue marble called Earth. So it's my hope that love conquers over the darkness that divides us and brings us into a future worth having. But I should get off my soapbox now. If you did, be sure to let us know with a comment and a clicking of that thumbs up button. And if you want to help us continue making more videos like this, double check and make sure that you're subscribed. I can't stress it enough, it's free and as simple as clicking a button. That will help us continue making more videos just like these here on the screen. Check them out, by the way. And don't forget to ring the bell to be notified when new videos release. Until then, peace out.